podcast. I don't know why I've got so much energy. I think I'm just kind of going to crash soon, and this is like the last of it, so enjoy it while it lasts. This is episode 10. I am Dan Boyd, and I am joined by Jerd and Jerd.
You, what's crack?
Jerd has mole year. That's quite threatening.
A little mole year.
A little mini.
It's a bit off kilter, but yeah, I'm working out.
It's a tool, you know what you do it. That's Jesus.
Now, live action, 3D.
Chrissy, is that what you tell yourself in the mirror in the morning?
Exactly. Look at myself.
What do you do with it?
Tearing the hammer off yourself.
As long as you know what you do.
They haven't pulled you off.
They haven't pulled you off.
Chris is back with an actual webcam from the last 5 years.
Oh my god, we can see him.
Yes,
he's got frames. He's got frames for days.
I know. I'm not like. I'm still finding it probably like list out all the way through. I'll be animated like this all the way through.
I'm gonna edit it so that the shutter speed at the bottom of the screen is just really slow, and me and Jerd look fine, and you'll be like, "I've got your webcam, I promise." Anyway, no, that's too much effort. Right. Yeah. So yes, today we're going to talk about news. We're going to talk about what we've been watching, and then we're going to do a big old debate. For the first time in weeks, because usually we're just like, oh, that thing's alright, isn't it? It's alright. Whereas I was like, no, I want some conflict today. I want some heads getting butted. So we're doing Marvel versus DC.
Oh shit!
That's definitely getting kept out.
That's rage of mine.
Shot of my fucking
and anger.
My
that was beautiful.
The dental floss is in the back.
I'm gonna put that up as a GIF and just put subscribe to Pop Shop Podcast.
No,
I'm having a skin. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, but let's it's late at night and we're all tired. Let's get into it. You know what? I'm gonna bring the mood down right away. I'm just gonna. I hope you enjoyed that wee burst of energy at the start, because one of the greats passed away. We don't normally do this on the podcast. We don't normally mention like creators passing away because it's just sad and it brings the mood down. But Tim Sale was one of my absolute favourites. George Perez passed away this year, and so did Neil Adams. Both extremely tragic and big losses for the industry. But for me, Tim Sale was one of my favourites, of all time.
It's a more important death.
He's more popular.
Don't give a fuck about the other two lads, to be honest with you.
Useless.
No, listen, hey, that's disrespectful. I'm a nice man. I'm giving out props all round.
To Tim Sale, but not to George Perez. Just so you're less bothered. Just so we're clear on that.
Tim Sale is my top 3 of all time. It's Tim Sale, Jim Lee, who's behind me, and I think it's Tim
Sale. In reality, he's in my fridge.
I was actually, again, sorry to bring it back down, but it was Jim Lee that actually shared the news that Tim Sale.
Yeah, I've seen it coming up a couple of times.
Really sad to see it being kind of coming for his pal that have been friends for years, and kind of really heartfelt.
Yeah.
So Tim Sale, if you don't know, worked on some of the most iconic books of all time. He worked on The Long Halloween and Dark Victory. That was based off of the first time he worked with Jeff Loeb was on The Haunted Night, which was like a kind of anthology Batman book of different. I think it was different Halloweens that Batman would go out and fight crime and whatever. And then they were like, "This is a great idea. Do a whole story." And then that's how The Long Halloween was born.
Oh, really?
And then we had the sequel, Dark Victory. He also worked again with Jeff Loeb on Spider-Man Blue, Hulk Grey, Daredevil Yellow, Captain America White. I've not read Captain America, the Hulk, or Daredevil, but Spider-Man Blue is incredible. That's a fantastic.
Yeah, I think I heard White isn't the best, but like Spider-Man Blue was one of those books. This will come back into this later. Like, massive Spider-Man fan, but I don't think there's that many Spider-Man graphic novels you can just pick up and go, "Oh, this is amazing."
Mm-hmm.
But that's to me, that's it. And it is. I only reread it there a couple of months ago. It is fantastic.
I would go as far as to say it's one of the best explorations of Peter and Mary Jane's relationship. And sorry, Peter and Gwen's relationship, because it's told retroactively. Like, Gwen's been dead for years at this point, and it starts with Peter in the attic going through old stuff and
old tapes,
remembering. And the way that it's told, and the fact that MJ is downstairs, his new partner's downstairs, and he's thinking about his old partner that he lost, and it's a devastating book, but art's gorgeous and it's well written. And they also worked on one of my favourite Superman stories, Superman for All Seasons.
Oh, season.
Very underrated book in my eyes. And again, rather than exploring the kind of grander aspects of Superman, like the whole alien, god killing stuff, it's way more about this farm boy for Kansas and how he goes for that to being the hero that we all know, the infallible Superman, and how the values instilled in him by okay, he's an alien and he can fly and he's indestructible and whatever, but see, without Jonathan and Martha Kent teaching him how to be a normal, nice, decent person, he would be Homelander. Do you know what I mean? And this Superman for All Seasons really hones in on that, like his upbringing and the kind of values that are instilled in him from a young age, so that like whether they and that's I think that's the kind of again something that they really highlight in that book that isn't often explored. I always think Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale are good at that. They're kind of good at honing in something, but maybe not that talked about and kind of expanding on it. Jonathan and Martha Kent probably weren't doing that because they thought, oh my God, we're raising an actual God. Like, we're raising Jesus Christ, basically. And we really need to be careful with him because, if we mess it up, then he's going to destroy the world. Like, I don't think that's why they gave him the lessons they gave him.
That,
I think it's just because they were good people. Do you know what I mean? And the book kind of explains that. It's not like, oh, we better, do this right because he's got laser beams and whatever. It's more just like, no, this is our son and we're raising him right, and also he happens to have laser beams and he can fly. So so Man for All Seasons is a great book, and just such a loss. I mean, Tim Sale, his work of late has kind of his heyday was kind of the late 90s, early 90s. He's not really quite as well known, but he has been working up until the last 10 years anyway.
10 years.
And this might sound a bit, I don't know, unfortunate, but when an artist like this dies, especially somebody like Tim Sale that I'm really kind of into, it really inspires me to go and check out the rest of their stuff. And I know it's a shame to say that when the guy's already dead, but now that he's passed away, I'm like, right, okay, this is an icon, and I feel like I should really absorb everything he's done. So I think I'm going to actually pick up a few of the stuff I've not read, just kind of in honor of him passing. So, big loss. Totally nothing that happened.
I'm probably going to say his name wrong, but Bill Sienkiewicz? No.
Don't know.
I think you do. I'm trying to think what he does. He does a lot of covers. He does a lot of. No, he does. It's fucking going to be hard to find. He wrote a post about it because he does like commemorative pieces for people, and he does. So he's done a lot of kind of like cover work. I don't think he's done much. He hardly done fucking 2 seconds now. I just want to get it up here because unless I completely writer and artist at Marvel, unless I completely got it wrong, he wrote a post about Tim Sale, and it was kind of.
Well, that's the thing. Like,
emotional.
I know. Well, I know that it's always kind of the same when an artist dies. When it's like nobody's ever going to come out and be like, "Oh, he was a dick." Like, it's always going to be nice messages. But some of the things that I've heard about Tim Sale and some of the things that I think people have kind of always said about him. To be fair, he's not always been made out to be the nicest man, but he is
fair.
He's a committed artist, and he's always. I think he was a proper perfectionist. Do you know what I mean? I think he kind of probably lost a lot of sleep over the years and stuff, like just make sure his shit was up to the highest standard. And I think also something he doesn't really get credited with. I really feel like he blended some styles. Like Tim Sale doesn't really get brought up when it comes to like bringing other ideas into comics as much. But I think he really ushered in like a whole new style, which has been kind of copied and aped by other artists, which had never been seen before. It was this kind of like gothic, almost dreamlike, Alice in Wonderland-esque aesthetic to it all.
Kind of thing.
Well, I guess Tim Burton's another example of that. Yeah, but with his movies.
Do you think that's one thing why these artists die quite young is because of the stress they put on themselves? You mentioned that he's probably a perfectionist. Do you think that's an element of it?
Not even just artists. I think any creative person at that level pushes them to get to that level. Writing for the big two or drawing for the big two, you have to be a committed, hard-working person. And I think that just, that comes with its sort of negatives. And I think, I don't think it's just exclusive to artists. I think anybody that works that hard for as long as that, you can burn out and it can,
I don't know. I think I'd have to kind of disagree with that, because some people, a very active or very hard working life adds to their longevity, and they do push
True.
on. I don't think something like that.
Well, you often hear that people that have been working all their days, it's when they retire that
They die.
all of a sudden their health
Yeah,
starts to go.
yeah.
So
Okay.
it's-
Bill Sienkiewicz, he did Daredevil, Love and War, Elektra, Assassin, a lot of Moon Knight. But anyway, he's been doing the last couple of years. He's been doing. I started following him. He's really interesting, because he's very interactive with his fans on social media. But he basically did. So he's been doing commemorative pieces for people before after their passing. But Tim Sale's friend, who I'll get the name of here, he was reached out to basically by Tim Sale's friend to do. Tim basically said to your man to his friend, I think it's Richard Starkings, who may be a creator too. Reached out to Bill, and I may be saying that wrong. I'm pretty sure it's Bill Sienkiewicz, because I hear him spoken about so much. Sienkiewicz. So it sounded like Eastern European name, but I'll just get it up. Basically, he was reached out to. Tim, from my understanding of it, unless I'm reading it wrong, Tim wanted to see his commemorative piece before he died. So he was commissioned to have it done before he passed. And it's all
that's cool.
Painfully works. So he's done it for every and especially the last night when Neil Adams passed and George Perez passed. That's trying to find another example of his art. It's not there. When other people pass away, he's had a lot of work to do recently, especially for people he might have worked with, or he does them for everybody. Really, he might do them for someone he really admires' birthday, and that's why he even said he was oh, it's just some people. If I'm doing a piece for someone's birthday, people sometimes get angry with me because they think it's a commemorative piece after their passing. Right. But yeah, I just thought that was quite nice to hear. So I think it was known for a while that he was ill.
Imagine that pressure though, having to do a commemorative piece for somebody that's still living. That must have been.
That's exactly. He wrote a big post about it afterwards, because he says it's a lot of fucking pressure, because you don't want to you don't want to feel like you just pulled through it.
His family's going to see it, and all his fans, and
especially when your man knew he was going to see it. So and he's a lot of them to do. I guess so Spider-Man Blue is the only one I really know of his, and I have read Long Halloween and Dark. I'm not fully sure if I've read Dark Victory. Didn't he do, because I seen someone posting about it on Twitter, Poison Ivy story or run?
Catwoman When in Rome was the sequel to Dark Victory.
And Poison Ivy feature in that, because there was a particular piece from what I read on Twitter. It seemed like
Poison Ivy is in Long Halloween, but she might be in When in Rome. It's been years since I've read that one.
Oh, right. From the way the person posted on Twitter, it seemed like he'd done a Poison Ivy.
Not as far as I might be wrong, but not as far as I know. It's just a Catwoman book, as far as I know.
The bit with her, I think she's in some embrace with someone, and she has all the flowers coming up behind her.
That's Long Halloween, I think.
Okay.
Is that no Hush, actually?
Maybe no, Hush was Jim Lee.
Oh fuck! Of course, yeah, Jim Lee.
Hush was Jim Lee.
Hush.
I'm thinking that Hush. Just shh.
Yeah, I mean, if I was an older creator, I would be watching my back.
Worried?
There seems to be something going a bit there, don't there? With all these greats dying, it's right.
Yeah, what was it? 2016.
Yeah,
there's another big year for death.
Yeah, that's right.
It started off with Bowie, ended with fucking Prince. Yeah, that was a tough fucking year.
That was 2017, but yeah. Right, let's.
Oh, Prince was in.
Let's move on to less depressing news. Well, depends on who you ask on this next one. Joker 2 is coming. We spoke about it last week. It's called Fully Adu. And that was an accent. And
now you can sing it. So, sorry. I had to cut the news part. Yeah, sorry.
It's apparently going to be a musical. That is the latest information. What did you make of this when you read it? Did you care? Did you...
Well, wasn't it kind of led with the fact that Lady Gaga has been sought to be
Lady Gaga has been pursued for Harley Quinn, yes, and it's apparently going to be a musical. My first take was, the first movie, I don't hate it, right? But it's just a poor man's Taxi Driver. So I don't want to see that again. I do want to see something different. I hate musicals. I should also mention I hate musicals with a passion, but I appreciate the balls. Like I appreciate the guts it takes to just be like, "Ah, sequel's gonna be a full on musical." Like, do you know what I mean? I do
Weird.
kind of respect that.
Are you taking it as the words? Because I took it more as like a concept of it's going to be a rhythm to the musical. It's going to be a
Like
way or something like that.
like
It's a
Baby
theme.
Driver.
Yeah,
Sort of.
it's going to be something like that. It's not going to be a musical. I can't imagine Joaquin Phoenix like singing.
Well, that's the thing. Like, yeah,
Like,
like sure you can cast other folk, but it's Joaquin Phoenix going to.
is it
But
going
then
to be
again,
Todd Phillips? Is it going to be Todd Phillips that are
it is.
directing it?
Yeah.
Because that could be even
Well,
more scary.
he's written it. I don't know about directing
Uh,
it. But yeah, I mean, Joaquin Phoenix, he is a committed actor. Like, I think if you asked him to do it, he would probably do it. He sang and Walk the Line, and
he
his,
did.
his
He
voice
done
is
well with
amazing in
Johnny
that.
Oh yeah,
Cash.
good Johnny Cash too.
Yeah, he is like he can sing. Like,
Yeah.
I
I
know that.
fell into a burning vat of chemicals. I was thinking there, I was like, there's more of a laugh. They haven't heard me properly yet.
Chris,
Weird. I don't know. I guess there's a little bit that me was thinking is like, they didn't really fucking mean that, and that's just what's being said.
Yeah. Well, that was my first take, but then I started seeing big outlets reporting it because I heard it kind of rumored loosely first, and I was like, it sounds like bullshit. And then I seen like your kind of IGNs and stuff writing about it, and I was like, maybe. Chris, I know that you're a big DC guy. What's your take?
I mean, I'm actually really up for it. I mean, it's different if it's going in a different direction. I mean, I think it'd be kind of weird because it kind of alluded, the end of Joker alluded that there's something after, and then if it goes a more serious tone in this film and into a fancy musical, could be a
Mhm.
really depressing musical. Actually, I'm
Oh,
thinking it'll be upbeat, but it could be a really depressing one. But I'm up for it. I mean, if as long as it has a good story, I know you did say it's a poor man's taxi driver, but
Yeah.
it was a good one. It was the best movie I would think that year. What was it?
Oh,
2017.
Jesus.
What
Sorry.
was it? Oh Jesus!
We're getting into this Steve Marvel DC already.
We'll get to Marvel versus DC, boys.
Oh no,
Captain.
sorry. Yeah. Carry on.
Listen, although there was certainly, I think my problem is more with Todd Phillips. I don't really like him as a filmmaker, but Joaquin
Really?
Phoenix was amazing in that movie.
He was
And
good. Aye.
although I don't know if he deserved the Oscar that year, I still think he was great, and a big props to him for committing to this role because it couldn't have been an easy thing to do. You
It
know
was
what I mean?
it was a disturbing movie. Like, see when you're watching it, that's what I felt. That's why I liked it so much because I was like, this is
What
quite
I think my
disturbing.
favourite thing about it was the imagery. It looked some of the scenes
Yeah,
I thought
was.
looked great. Especially out of context. In context they were a bit silly, but out of context, just as a poster, it was a really, some really cool imagery. Like for example, the scene on the stairs is way cooler out of context than it is in context. It's just kind of weird in context. But yeah, I don't know. It was.
Yeah.
The first movie was an example of an actor committing himself to a role and doing something different with an iconic character, which I appreciated. I would rather they took chances with these characters personally. I'm sick of seeing the same old superhero shite. So see if you can take these characters and do something ballsy, go for it. That said,
it shows like cause if you can go with one character and go to depth with that,
yeah,
rather than an ensemble, it's
so
so much better.
There was a meme that I seen that kind of summed it up. It said, everybody that was hyped for Joker 2 is now really pissed, and people that didn't care are intrigued. This is a genius market move. And it is, like, I think that's pretty accurate.
It is.
Jerd, do you have any more thoughts on it?
I was so nonplussed by the first film that I couldn't give a fuck. Musical, like I've never been mad for musicals. I guess in certain situations, if I got to musicals, yeah.
Will you see it out of curiosity? Will you see this if it is a musical?
Yeah, I'll be maybe. I don't know.
Because I think that's a question. Folk like yourself that don't really give a shit does this, even though it might not be what you want to hear. Is it getting you on board for at least piquing your interest? Do you know what I mean? I think that's the question. Because if so, then it is good marketing. That is clever. Like,
especially after the first one, I'd say I'd hold off until what the general reviews are like. But sometimes general reviews, like even if something's supposed like, generally I wouldn't be hold on. Like I guess I do have that little bit of bias towards DC, and like that'll come apparent later on. That I won't not watch something. I'd nearly not watch something because it's DC, and I can get into that a bit more later. But if something is reviewed very well, it doesn't always make me like if I'm just not arsed, like especially after the first film. Jesus, they could do a lot of stuff. I still wouldn't be that arsed watching it. Like I just, it just had a tone that I just didn't like or appreciate. And regardless, like, and sometimes something like I could even fully have it in my head that's that's supposed to be really good, but I couldn't be like Top Gun. I know it's supposed to be great. I couldn't be arsed watching it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So musicals are not generally that pushed on. I guess in certain different types of mediums, like if it's a TV show that I like. I remember I used to love Buffy. I still kind of do, but
That's right. That was a great episode.
That was great.
I never
We
bought.
spent-
For years, I didn't watch that episode. I maybe seen it the first time it came out, but I never. I had rewatched it and skipped it, and then years later, I just started listening to the fucking songs on YouTube and grew to love them. But yeah, musicals. I think if I'm forced to watch a musical, I'll watch it and I can enjoy it then. But it's not something I jump at the chance of going to watch.
Like I know like it's became a big thing. I know like Hamilton on Disney Plus that got a really big viewing rating. I don't know if they're going for that. Like maybe let's jump in this like
That's
train
having
of
an effect.
musicals. But
then at the same
Hamilton
time, Hamilton is a few years old at this point, so I feel like we kind of missed the boat with that. The first movie would have been like peak Hamilton hype. Do you know what I mean? There were a few years after the fact.
Musicals are always a thing. Like they're always in the background there.
Yeah. Also, although I hate musicals, Hamilton is incredible. I've seen that twice, and that's
I can't say the name.
For someone that hates musicals, it was.
Have you got something against it, Jerd, or just
no? Every time I say it, I have to kind of build myself up and kind of ramp up to saying it without Hamilton.
Hamilton.
I can't say. I have to like either go really slow. I can't go fast. Hamilton. I probably am saying it right, but it just freaks me out. I don't trust myself with that word.
Very specific one.
I don't know why.
Right. Let's move on from Hamilton and Joker 2. We spoke last week about a kind of lot of gaming news that was coming out. The only thing we really missed was the Capcom showing, where they revealed that Resident Evil 8 will be getting a special edition in October, which will come with a sort of DLC extra game package thing, and it will also have a third-person mode.
So it looked like this when you're
play
playing.
in third person.
Exactly. You see the guy's head.
Sorry, just every time I see how many just random different figures you can pick up when I'm here. Yes. Third person.
This update wasn't something I would be asked about if I'd already played it, but genuinely, as you know, I recently just got a PS5, and I've been kind of working my way through the games that I've kind of been saving to play on PS5, like Miles Morales and stuff. Resident Evil was one of them, so I was like, right, that's my next. I've finished Mortal Kombat 11. Resident Evil's my next one, and then this news came out, and I was like, well, I'll just wait till October.
Are you holding off? Oh, I would not. I would not. I would say play it the first person. I would definitely.
Oh no, I'll play it in both when I get it. I'll play it in first person and then play it again in third, I reckon. But it's like, why buy the game just now and then pay the premium to get the DLC when I can just wait and just get the whole thing?
How does it work? If I bought, it's 8, isn't it? Yeah, if I bought 8 now, and then when that third person version comes out, what's the difference then?
You would need to pay 15 quid or something.
I see, like
the DLC.
Dan would need to pay like the full price for the game because I've already got it. It might be like an extra 10, 20 quid or something, and I don't think that's. I would buy that.
There's a new. I don't know if it's a sequel. Like in the trailer, there's a thing it shows you, and it's something to do with a character called Rose. I don't know if she's in the game. I don't know.
I'm not gonna. I would tell you.
My nephew told me the trailer itself is for the gold edition is spoilery for the game itself.
Yeah.
So maybe not get too into that.
But I think that Rose character, obviously, that's a kind of sequel DLC. So if you buy that DLC package, I think you get the third person mode. I think
it's
that's
like
how it works.
See, like it's actually not connected at all. But like and like they have like dual storylines. Like say Claire. It's not actually. It's not anything like that actually at all. but just
do you know that? Nothing like that. I was only here because I wanted to know how to get away from here.
Do you know what the actual connection was? Because it was a male and female character. That's what meant in my brain. It was like, oh yeah, it's similar like that, but it's not. It's not at all. But
yeah, I'm hyped that I didn't buy it because I'm like, yeah, I'll check this out because who cares? I've not got it yet anyway. I might as well wait a couple of months just to play the film.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like
I actually think like I don't know about yourselves, but I love playing the third person stuff because it's less scary. I think it's less scary like in elements because you're kind of the guys in front of him. He's the one getting hit, no me. Like, you know,
You feel more
like
detached.
I
exactly.
know.
So
Like I'm just playing. I was literally, because the first time in about 2 weeks, I picked up 2 again, and I was like, "Oh, what's the thing in 2 where you've got X amount of boards to board up windows, but you don't have enough boards to board up every window." And then like
yeah,
I googled the thing online. It was saying basically to
to
save
tap.
them for the right hand side.
Yep.
But
Right.
then I went through the fucking left hand side where you first meet the licker in the original game,
Uh-huh.
and just fucking zombies were everywhere. I was like, why did I not? I guess I think you maybe even still you have a shortcut for that hallway, so you don't.
Right.
You only have to use that when you go to a certain door. Sorry, so I still find it still terrifying to me, even in the third person.
Oh yeah, like definitely. I think it is scary, but I find it's less scary when it's in third person
So-
because first person, I feel that I'm fucking the one getting hit.
You're the one getting it.
Like,
It's,
I'm like,
it's
no.
not even for me. It's not even like scariness. It's just I just tend to prefer third person games. Like I've
Yeah,
always, I
big
don't mind
time.
first
Dead Space-
person. But,
Dead Space is one. Like that was one of the best games
yeah,
I
but
played. So
not
it's
even horror games though. Like just like Metal Gear Solid, just
Shooters,
like any
yeah.
game. I just
shooters,
prefer. I just personally prefer
Splinter
third
Cell,
person.
everything,
Like
yeah.
Fallout, you've got the option, or Skyrim, you've got the option. I always play it in third. You know,
Yeah.
if I've got the option, I'll
Yeah,
play it in third person.
Skyrim, I switched it around a little bit. I think it's fun.
Aye.
But
I don't.
but
Yeah, I don't.
I get it. You know, I get it. Some people prefer first person, and like I said, there's first person games that I do enjoy. I enjoyed Seven, Resident Evil 7, but I do wonder: is this a hint that the next game might be going back to the third person Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, Resident Evil 4 remake type?
Jeez, man,
gameplay?
if they could do it, give the option. If it said they'd fucking
Yeah.
they'd maximize their efforts then, or they'd
Yeah,
maximize like
100%, man.
'cause
Give us the option.
if they can build it in a certain way, I guess they were probably doing first person to make 7 a bit different and get away from 6, but 6, 8,
Yeah.
7. 6, 7, 8. Shit.
Also-
4 out of 11. 4 out of 11. Callback. But if they could do it in such a way that they're building every game like that, like fuck it, for third, for first person, and I think then you do have the option with the VR headsets to play these games in first person in VR.
It'll be much better.
I don't know
It'll
about
be-
8. Is 8 playable in VR? I know 7 is. I don't know about 8.
I don't know about it.
Mate.
You can probably get mods for it if you're doing it on PC anyway. Well,
Yeah.
maybe not to do VR, but
Yeah, that'd be a big mod. But what I think's curious, so talking about like building stuff retroactively, like VR, I wonder if they knew when they were first developing it that this was going to be a thing, or if somebody was playing, like somebody at Capcom was playing through 8, hi pal, and was like,
They get those
Somebody-
views. They get
somebody
the
was-
dugger.
somebody was playing 8, and it's all right, it's fine. And then was like, oh shit, we can make this third person.
where's the dog?
Oh, it's a
No,
very-
you built
You
that
want
up
to see
there.
Oh,
Yeah,
hello, boy. It's a boy.
Chekhov's dog.
I think he's a big dog. I think this one. He's not
Oh,
big,
boy.
but he's bigger than.
Where's your boy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've done your cameo appearance.
Yeah.
It's what he
I see
gets
you,
you.
pal. Good boy. We're dogs out for a fortnight, so we've got 2 dogs. I told you that already.
Oh, he looked at us for a second.
Look to us. We're here.
He does watch the TV. Rocky doesn't, but he'll
Right,
watch.
Oh yeah, and some dogs just don't even think it's a thing, and the others are like, ugh.
Yeah. What we're saying, Resident Evil. Yeah. Are you guys going to play this? Do you care? Are you going to follow this through, or was it just?
I haven't played 7 or 8 yet. To be honest, with you. I'd probably be more inclined to play 8 if it's third person.
I remember you
And same
saying
with
that.
7.
I would recommend watching it. I actually think, to your point, Danny, when you're talking about the developers, I think there might have been either mixing with like Resi 4 or something, because they're constantly making these third person ones. Or that we could make it on Resi 6 or the
Well,
Resi 8, you know? It's
That's
simple
what
enough.
I'm thinking with the future games like Resident Evil 9. If they're doing, so they've done all these remakes, right? That 4's, we were saying last week that 4's probably going to be the last one they remake because 5 was in HD. Pardon me,
Yeah, I
5
don't
was
think
shit
they would.
and it was in
Yeah.
HD.
Oh,
I think that's
how
more
dare you?
reasons to remake 5, and even I don't know if they might. See, that's the thing. When are they going to stop? Are they going to stop at 6? Because then if they get a new.
My thing is, if they remake 5 and 6, I would like them to make them better.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Change
definitely.
it and make it less corny and make it.
Because I think they're going to do that with
redo it.
4 anyway. They're going to
Uh-huh.
take out the cheese.
Yeah.
So if they were to
then
do that for
5.
5 and 6, because that's the thing, people love 4, people don't really like 5, and people hate 6.
Oh yeah,
So,
everybody hates 6.
listen, 5 was fun in co-op, but see, as a single player Resident Evil game, it was a
Aye,
difficult.
oh, it was awful. Aye.
They could do like a course
Um,
correction for 6 and like just do, take whatever they want out of it and then just streamline it. I don't know, was that kind of, was it, because it was kind of like 3 different campaigns, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it was fucking awful.
Like Leon
then-
got
Yeah,
zombies,
Leon,
but he was in
Chris.
Japan,
Yeah.
and then Chris did the.
Was in Afghanistan or something, I think. Or so, he was
That's-
in somewhere.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Somewhere in
But
the Middle East.
5 was the one that they updated it so much that they broke the visuals. Like it had this weird
Oh,
sepia
yeah.
tone to it, and then they took it out, and then they put it back in, but you could enable it or you could toggle it on and off. But it didn't matter
settings,
what
aye.
mode you had; it looked worse. Both modes looked worse than how it did before. Like they
Yeah.
messed with the visuals so much, the filters and stuff, that it just ended up looking like the ugliest game imaginable. So yeah, maybe they could fix that in a remake. But
I
Yeah,
just had a memory there of me going into Asda and buying that for like 40 quid. I remember, I remember that. Oh,
My
jeez.
my prediction is I reckon 4 will be the last remake. They'll do this Resident
Oh,
Evil
they'll have
8
to.
where you can switch between first and third, and then like Jared said, Resident Evil 9 will give you the option, and that'll be the way going forward. I think that makes sense to me.
Adds
And
to the
it
replay value.
sounds great as well. Yeah,
Because I imagine people could play like especially if they time it right. Well, I guess maybe that's kind of why they might want to release them at the same time, because they could like, okay, here's first person, then 6 months later, okay, we have it in third person now. 6
Yeah,
months later, VR. So like that's you
Yeah,
could
they'll
potentially
keep
getting
dragging
3
it
people to come in at each time, or people to add on to their subscription of the game, or add on to what they played for the game, and they've done the groundwork. They're just putting it back through these different paths.
yeah, 100%.
Probably
I'm
pretty
kind of
smart.
I'm kind of worried about Capcom. If this is the last remake, what the fuck are they going to do? Because that's what they've kind of used the remake to
I'll
kind
tell
of
you.
fill the gap.
I'll tell you what they're going to do,
Oh,
Chris.
have you got the
They're
answer?
going to do Dino Crisis. Because
Yes!
of course they are. They're going to, you fought zombies in HD. Why would you not want to fight dinosaurs in
Let's
HD?
get dinosaurs in.
Listen, I'm kind of half joking, but also Dino Crisis 2 was an amazing game. They should remake that.
Oh yeah.
That T-Rex chasing you down that jungle area was terrifying back in the day. Yeah, they should. I
Yeah.
genuinely think that's what they'll do. I think they'll do Resident Evil 9 and then we'll get a Dino Crisis remake. And I will be like, mate, this is what I've been
This is
waiting for. Because see, at the last Capcom, or the last State of Play or something, there was it was the last State of Play, because it was the one that was all the Japanese developers. And they showed, Capcom logo came up. Then you seen these dinosaurs, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's happening!" And then it was some other bullshit dinosaur fighting game where it's like online co-op, and I'm like, "Why would you tease us like that?" Do you know what I mean? So they've already got the dinosaur models done. All they need to do is put them in a game and make Dino Crisis. Like, how hard is it, Capcom? Come on, do it. Anyway, so moving on. Before we move on for game news, just one more thing I wanted to mention. Are you guys bothered about Starfield? Are you Bethesda fans? Because I'm looking forward to Starfield.
Don't even know what it is.
I'm kind of curious about it because I remember every game that's came out for Bethesda, they always like say that this is going to be like the show you the stars, and actually you get 40% of what you actually should be getting. So I'm like, like I want to be hyped for it, but
I want to actually get the game that you promised. That would be nice, just once.
Exactly.
What are your experiences with Fallout? Have you played the Fallout games?
No.
I started Fallout New Vegas, and then I played Fallout 4 for a bit, and then I just got rid of that. That's about a bit. So
the reason I'm asking the news is that obviously Todd Howard was doing his promotion for Starfield. They showed it off at the Xbox Bethesda showcase, and then he got asked about Fallout 5, and he basically said they're doing Starfield next year, and then they're doing Elder Scrolls 6. The sequel to Skyrim, and then they're doing Fallout 5. So probably 2040, something like that.
Fuck, aye.
How long they take? No, I'm kidding. I'm half kidding on. Do you know what I mean? I'm only half kidding.
See if they're doing the sequel to Skyrim. Is that? Did he talk like it's getting? I never watched the conference, but is he talking like it's already in production, but it's coming?
Oh yeah, it'll be in production. Starfield was meant to be out at the end of this year, so Starfield's pretty much done. I think they're just putting finishing touches on it, and then. Even while they're working on that, they will have had somebody else working on Elder Scrolls 100%.
When was Skyrim? When was? I feel like it's 2012 or something.
2011 Skyrim was.
So
because that's the thing. Starfield. I was really annoyed that they delayed it because Starfield, just for my OCD, Starfield was going to be released 10 years to the day since Skyrim. Skyrim was 11/11/11, and Starfield's original date was 11/11/21, but now it's 2020. No, sorry, 11/11/22, and it's now going to be 2023.
Well,
But yeah, I'm buzzing for it. I hope it's see for the presentation they did. It looks about like No Man's Sky, and that
that's what I
gave me
was like.
PTSD.
Oh
Do you know what I mean?
no!
I'm like,
Aye,
no, again. But listen,
aye.
see if it's No Man's Sky, but it actually delivers on what it's promising. I'll eat my words. But like I've said on both this podcast and the KeenGamer podcast that I've been on, Bethesda need to nail this. Bethesda can't afford another big
Fuck up.
fuck up because they're at the point where people will just stop buying their games. Like they're on that edge at the minute since Fallout 76 that people
Yeah.
will just boycott them. So I think they have to nail this. Not only like it's not like Cyberpunk where like they bring it out, it's a letdown, but give us a couple of years and it'll be good. See if this isn't good when it comes out, people will be pissed off. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that's the thing that they need to sort, I think.
I think Jenkins, because they're doing that. Is it Starfield? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Do you think they're going to be dropping things because they're thinking, right, we've got this new IP, Fallout's going to be finished. We'll just be doing Skyrim, well, the six Elder
Honestly,
Scrolls, and this thing.
the way I
Or
always think about that with franchises, see as long as Fallout and Elder Scrolls are still
selling.
big names, they'll keep
Yeah.
doing them. And I also think, see if talking about Bethesda and their sort of reputation, see if Bethesda was to turn around and say, you're not getting any more Skyrim, like Elder
they'd be
Scrolls games.
uproar. Aye.
Yeah, like they can't afford. They could maybe do that when they were riding high and they were kind of Billy Big Boss. But see now they can't turn around and say that shit because people will just be like, "What? First of all, you've ruined like Fallout, and now you're taking away another franchise. Like what he's doing? Do you know what I mean?" So I think the goodwill, like those franchises, have a better kind of goodwill to them than the company does. And I think if they were to drop one of those franchises, they would be giving up that kind of respect.
feeling.
Do you know what I mean?
Good point.
Anyway, that's all the gaming news. Do you guys have any news that you want to talk about? Because I've only got one more thing, so I don't know if you want to hit on anything.
I'll throw in the
I've got nothing.
announcement of Wonder Man TV show for Disney Plus.
Yeah.
I thought I saw maybe someone was being attached to the cast, but I'm not sure if I did. I think I've tried to research it since, and I haven't heard anything about potential casting. So, Wonder Man in the comics. Shit, who made him up? I think it was one of the Baron von Strucker or something like that. I could fucking find that out pretty quickly.
I'll go. You keep talking.
You have a Google there to see who created him. Yeah, he came about pretty early, and he was like, I think he was made to infiltrate the Avengers and then turn against them.
Stanley, Don Heck.
Wonder Man was.
Oh, I mean in universe.
Stanley, Jack Kirby, and Don Heck.
No, in universe.
Oh, okay, got you.
He was given his powers by someone in universe. Do you know what I mean? I think it was either. I don't think it was Ultron, but then
Baron Zemo.
Baron Zemo, yeah, and he was one of the kind of Nazi guys. So, well, that's what he is in the comics. They changed.
See,
Zemo
when you
in
just
the
said that,
show.
when you said that, like he's got the uniform, he's got red and black. It kind of makes sense now.
Well, he more started green and red. It was weird.
Was he?
Yeah, when he first started, he had like the W on his thing, but he was like green. The costume used to look horrible. I think they kind of made him pretty cool towards the end. So, Vision's brain patterns. I think we might have talked about this in a previous podcast, or maybe it was in a podcast that I recorded that wasn't even with you. But I never released anywhere. But Vision's brain patterns are supposed to be based on his. But I've never read a comic where Vision behaves anything like him. Because in the comics, he's like an actor. We were talking before we started recording. Nathan Fillion played him basically just in posters in deleted scenes from Guardians of the Galaxy 2, where he was like an actor playing Tony Stark in a biopic, and it's just a poster on a wall. So I think Nathan Fillion just came in because he's friends with James Gunn just to pose for those photos. Yeah, so he's not like... He's an actor. There was a period of time where, like, when the Beast joined the Avengers, him and Beast were like the comedic double act kind of thing, where Beast kind of fell behind from his brainiac, his really smartness. He's being, the brains of the operation to just being like a kind of sleazy. They were kind of like a double team of jokers on the team. But yeah, so His brother then is the Grim Reaper, who is just a guy with a sight for one hand. I don't know, like what really he does. I don't even know what. Like, I don't think he has any death powers or anything like that. But so yeah, Vision was based on his brain patterns. He had a relationship with Wanda, but then he was always kind of seemed to be in the comics. I think in recent years he was a pacifist in the comics. Basically, he's just got like energy powers, but he's a bit of a fucking tank. But like in the last couple of years, he's a pacifist and he doesn't really fight that much. So he's kind of been sidelined within the Marvel universe, but he was a big part of the Avengers for like George Perez's time during the 90s and stuff. And early 90s, he would have been a big part of them then. And I guess, yeah, he's a main stable of the Avengers in the comics really before we got to know them through their MCU appearances when they were more based on the Ultimate comics. Yeah, it could be quite interesting to see what they could link him to Wanda. They could link him to.
My next question was: do you think this is the next place that we'll see Vision? Because White Vision disappeared.
Oh,
We've
he's
not seen him
gone.
since.
Potentially, yeah. And then they were on the West Coast Avengers together,
Right?
Which is kind of like more of. I think it kind of started in a little bit of a jokey way. Because I think.
You reckon in the series that Zemo will be in it and it will follow the same kind of origin story, or?
Well, to other news, they announced a director for, which we may have mentioned last week. They announced a director for Thunderbolts, and Zemo is going to be a part of that. But the Zemo in the comics that created Wonder Man is, yeah, as I said, he was a more villain. He was more of a Nazi kind of guy, and we'd probably be seeing Zemo turning over a new leaf. Who knows? He could be introduced in Thunderbolts, but Zemo in the MCU is very against the idea of superheroes or superpowered beings, so I don't see him creating one.
They would have to write it in the narrative that he's somehow swayed to go from one extreme to the other, from being against him to creating one. But if they did that successfully, then they could do a post-credit scene, and that's how they could, the post-credit scene for Thunderbolts could be leading into Wonder Man, I guess.
Yeah.
Also there's a sort of creative team being mentioned, and Destin Daniel Cretton, who made Shang-Chi, directed Shang-Chi.
Oh, yes.
Is helming this project, so I assume that means he's directing it. I don't know if he's writing it as well, but decent pedigree. I mean, I know not everybody loves Shang-Chi, but I liked some of it. I loved the first two thirds. The last act was a bit,
yeah, CGI bullshit. But yeah.
I never even watched Shang-Chi. Like I've just got all my info from you.
Yeah,
I need to know.
That'll do. The part of somebody's good enough.
I was like, I can't watch this shit.
You're getting Marvel vs DC next and early, boys. This is good. It's like sparring.
Little jab. This is like the press show. The weigh-in.
I'm going to edit your heads like up against each other, like the weigh-in and stuff. And then I'll be, you know how that meme that's going about of what's his name for the boys? No, what's the fast guy for the boys?
A-Train.
His name, A-Train, where he's got the Pepsi, or it's not Pepsi, whatever the energy drink is in the boys, but it's also Pepsi. That'll be me, like holding that between you, like pass you the Pepsi, and you still be like, it's sound, it's cool.
Give the Coke Zero a shot.
Cheeky.
Yeah, it could be fun. It could be like comedic. I guess because he's an actor, like as someone was saying, they could make it like Barry, the Bill Hader show.
Thank God, I thought you meant Barry Flash, and I was like,
no.
We don't need.
Not talking about any flashes this week. We don't need to talk about any flashes. We don't need to know anything about any flashes. We don't need to know anything about that. Take that, DC.
No. I can't fight that battle.
I have to defend that one.
Yeah, I played that one.
That's not how we're dying.
No, that's gone. I'm buying. See, fucking fire.
Fastest actor to ruin their career.
Fastest man alive.
Fastest. He's fast. Fucked up.
Fastest day alive. Yeah, so it could be fun. I don't know. Other than that, I'm really big on you. Oh, there's potential. I looked him up. I don't know what. I tried to Google him. Danny Rook or something his name is. Mm-hmm. No, maybe that's not it. Let me just get it up. The only thing I couldn't figure out what show he was in, unless he's in a show called Season 3. Which
That'd be
I
a
don't know
show.
if that's the thing.
Sure.
Now I'm probably going to just give that a little bit of a harder Google, but when I searched Rudy Pankow. So when I searched up the hashtag Rudy Pankow on Instagram, I just kept seeing season 3 everywhere. So I'm like, is he in season 3 of a show? Oh, and Elle Fanning. That's not Elle
Oh, she's
Fanning.
good.
Who's she?
Elf.
Elizabeth Lale. I don't know who she is.
Ugh.
I was sure maybe it's in a separate thing. Excuse me. Elle Fanning is apparently joining the MCU. So maybe I saw that separately. I just see another article here saying that this Rudy Pankow, sorry, and Elizabeth Lale, who I don't know her at all.
Great insight.
Sorry, yeah, no what she's saying.
I don't know any of these people. Me and you are most likely alike.
Well, I don't know who either of those two people are, to be honest, in fairness. Oh, I did see this is not really news, but it's a very funny thing where it's this Instagram page, comic book, I think. They just call themselves comic book on Instagram. But sorry, I was going to get this up because it is pretty fucking hilarious. Now, you're not going to be able to hear it, but it's just like Elizabeth Olsen. Oh, shit, that's me open.
Is that Elizabeth Olsen laughing while
She's like on the rig thing and she's just going, and she starts making the sound like, I'm coming to get you. It's really funny. It's like behind the scenes. She's just like,
I seen a meme, or wasn't a meme, it was just a behind the scenes image, and it was a scene where Josh Brolin in the ping pong ball suit is ripping. Obviously, he's doing the action of ripping the stone out of Vision's head.
yeah.
But Liz Olsen's in the background pulling a dumb face. It's amazing because it's one of the most tragic moments for Wanda. Well, Liz Olsen's just having a
Having a
laugh.
crack in the back.
Pretty good.
Yeah, other than that, no news really.
Chris, you get any news you want to touch on? I think I'm good to move on. Actually,
I'm done.
Yeah, I'm raring to go now, man. I'm wanting to go to this debate. Let's get.
It's time, is it?
No. First we'll get what we've been watching out the way because we haven't spoke about Kenobi since. Sorry, Chris hasn't spoke about Kenobi yet.
My apologies. I've been on hiatus for the past couple of weeks.
Don't worry. Listen, one episode left. What are you thinking so far, and what do you want to see for the last one?
Right, I'm gonna put it out there. Right, it's been a kind of weird season for me watching this. I don't know why. Like, I think the most I love seeing Vader. I love seeing Vader act, but I think what made him more powerful is you don't see him that often. Like on Rogue One, you see him for maybe 50 seconds at max when he's going through that end scene. This, I'm seeing him more walking about and all that stuff, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to see that. I just want to see him when he comes at a burst of rage, and that's it. It's over with. And I mean, that's was the only thing I was disappointed in me, and I don't know what the last thing is going to be now. I think now they've noticed that this fan base want to watch this story commence.
Yeah.
And they're just saying, right, we'll make another story. And the one thing I'm worried about is how the fuck are they going to connect it to the New Hope, the actual battle. You know, I mean, who gives a shit at this point? But I'm like, they can't go too far. They can't meet them constantly. They can't be meeting every fucking weekend.
It's already punching a hole in the continuity in multiple aspects anyway.
Yes,
the whole thing about how Princess Leia doesn't remember all this shit when she was like not that young a child is weird. But
because she doesn't know anything about Vader and New Hope, does she not?
Well, it's more actually for me, it's more her relationship with Obi-Wan. Like, see when she puts that message into R2D2, it's as if she's sending a message to a stranger that she hardly knows. Like "You're my only hope," like that speech. It's as if she's speaking to somebody that she doesn't really know. Like the way she addresses him as like, I don't know, as like a stranger. Whereas in Kenobi, it's like, no, you hung about when you were a child. You were like 10, and this guy saved you like 3 times, and you spent time together, and you were on like a first name basis. So how come 10 years later you're like not Mr. Kenobi, but basically Mr. Kenobi? It's like no, it's Uncle Obi-Wan at that point. Do you know what I mean? You spent that much time with him. It's like, I don't know. It seems I don't know. What's the word? Not true to
Under,
what's came before.
yeah.
But I don't
Yeah.
really care about that because I'm not that precious with that shit. Like I can accept that Obi-Wan was made 40 years after the original trilogy or more than
Yeah.
that, and be like, do you know what? I don't care. This is how things are made and how things are written. I don't care. But for me, I agree with what you were saying, Chris, with Darth Vader. I think with any kind of villain, especially
Yeah.
kind of horror villain, which they're kind of using Darth Vader as in this series and in Rogue One.
Really goodly. Like
Yeah,
I'm not
when
saying
he's
it's
on
bad,
screen,
but
he's a presence. He is scary, but I agree that the less we see him, the more effective it is. It's like Jaws. It's like the old. It goes
yeah,
as far back as that when Spielberg couldn't afford to show the shark as much, and they had to only show it a wee bit, and therefore it was more scary.
it's
Because
in
see,
your
when it was
mind.
off screen, you're wondering where is he? What's he doing? Like, and it's
Uh,
the same with Vader. Like when he's not there, you're like, shit, is he going to burst out at any minute with his lightsaber and cut a head off? Like that's the scary part. It's not knowing. Whereas if you're like, I've heard people saying they should make a Darth Vader series, like a Disney Plus Darth Vader show, based on the comics because apparently the comics are great. I've not read all of them. I've only read the first volume.
Mm.
But yeah, people are saying they should do that, use that as a source material. And Hayden Christensen has also said that he would be up for it
I did see
because.
that. Yeah.
But then at the same time, I don't want to be cheeky, right? But what else is Hayden Christensen doing? Of course, he's up for it, right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
doesn't have to
It's
do
not,
much work anyway.
not
Like
much
I know that
promise.
sounds rude, but he's not going to be like, oh, I don't want it. Do you know what I mean? Because what else has he got going on?
But like,
And
how much does he
the Hobbit
play
guys,
him?
but like,
Really, he doesn't do the voice.
No, I know he doesn't. I thought he did in the beginning, like because his voice sounded a bit weird, but I don't think he does. I don't think he
is
does.
he in the suit at any point, or is it always a stuntman?
No, I think it's him. Maybe when they're fighting, it's a
There
stunt
is a
man.
stunt. I saw something where it was like,
I say this because I know that Pedro Pascal does most of his lines in a studio. He's not even on set for
Aye,
Mandalorian.
but
yeah.
So,
he does a lot of the stuff himself too, though.
what do you mean in the suit?
Excuse me, for the second season, did he not
Right,
do more? Someone told me that he didn't do as much in the first season, but in the second season, he's actually in the costume far
right.
more
I'm
than he
not
was
sure to be
before.
honest. But
Yeah.
but yeah, with Hayden Christensen, it's like, well, you've went to all the effort of bringing this actor back, and okay, I know I just slagged him, just like, oh, what else is he doing? But it's still a guy that's played this role 20 years ago. He might not want to get back to it. You've convinced him to come back. You've got all this kind of nostalgia, on your side.
Mhm.
Why wait? If that last episode, the fifth episode, was the only time he was actually on set, why go to all that trouble just for that one flashback scene?
That's exactly what I was expecting more, like, because they're from the Clone Wars and stuff like that, the
Uh-huh.
animated series. I thought you were going to see more of Hayden Christensen, like flashbacks of Obi-Wan Kenobi, remember him as a Jedi. But
Yeah.
I'm like, what's the point? You're not even voicing him. Like, I don't even think Jones is voicing him. I think it's like they're taking
No.
excerpts of
They're
his voice.
and using
Yeah.
that
And
from other
use
stuff, and
Yeah.
yeah,
so
They're
like
recreating it with AI.
Vader is just an entity. like Hayden Christensen isn't
Frankenstein of
using
different people
exactly.
and stuff.
So
But I actually think so that I was going to mention that actually. I think that makes the character more scary because I think when you know it's an actor playing him, like Pennywise is scary, but it's just Bill Skarsgård with makeup on, so it's not.
mhm,
Whereas if this is like an amalgamation of different performers, voices, stuntmen, and all that really exists is the character, and there's not one actor that plays him, personally I think that's scarier
Yeah,
because he's just this entity that lives in this TV show. Like he's not a real person. Whereas like Bill Skarsgård's a real dude. Do you know what I mean? Like that that that's just a guy with makeup on. But if it's
mhm.
something that's been created, and I also think it kind of speaks more to the creative process, like how much work goes into just making this character
one
happen.
person. Yeah,
Like there's a lot of effort, there's a lot of moving parts, and they're all working together to make this terrifying presence. I think that's impressive. I give them props for that, and for being able to keep it up for so long. Because Darth Vader's also a really enduring character. He's been going since the '70s, and he's
Mm.
still there. He's still scary. It's fair play. Like
I
gotta
think
give
what they
props.
actually should have done is worked to have Hayden Christensen do the voice now,
What, like
Yeah,
properly?
not a bother, not a try to re-emulate the old voice. From this point on, it should have been Hayden Christensen doing the voice and like alterate it.
the issue with that though, that would again, I don't really care about continuity, but Star Wars fanboys would be greeting because in Revenge of the Sith, as soon as he's Vader,
Oh
he's
yeah,
got James Earl Jones' voice. So you
Aye.
can't then go back to Hayden Christensen because then that breaks
Uh,
continuity. I don't care, but people would. People would flip
yeah,
out.
or maybe because he's doing some voice, he's some voice modulation. But I don't know. I just think it should have like because it would have been like, look, he's trying to do the voice of an older black man. it's going to be not as easy for him, and maybe he isn't that gifted at doing voice work. But I just think it would have been a nice point to do it from, just to have him even try and do it. Like, it doesn't have to be the best impersonation in the world, but aid it with technological stuff that they could work with it.
I think that's good because I think it was supposed to be about 10 years prior to like the actual New Hope. I don't know if that's right or wrong. I know it's supposed to be a significant amount of time, so then you could potentially get away with that, saying, "Oh, did you breathe in there? Like that was like a Darth Vader breathe. Whoever breathed there."
I'm sorry.
I was like, I was like, "Oh, that's continuity for you, Jesus." But like, I think that could be quite good. Like it grew into the voice as he got older. You know.
Yeah.
But
Just
that
push him
was
to
a
the
good idea.
absolute limits. Do him like in voice training, blah blah blah. Get him to, and then adjust it all digitally because.
Last thing we spoke last week when we were talking about Stranger Things, we spoke about deepfakes and stuff and how they'd done that with Millie Bobby Brown's young self and whatever. They're doing it now with voices because in Bohemian Rhapsody, regardless of what you think about that movie, the recreation of Freddie Mercury's voice was very impressive because they used an amalgamation of old stock sort of recordings of Freddie Mercury, Rami Malek's actual voice, and a guy called Mark Mattel, who is, if you've not seen him, he's on YouTube and he does Queen covers.
Yeah.
Oh my god, he
Yeah.
sounds almost exactly
He
like
kind
Freddie.
of looks like
for
him
the
as well.
singing, is it?
Yeah, for the singing,
For the
yeah.
singing.
Not speaking voices all Rami Malek, but for the singing voice, it was a combination of Rami Malek's singing voice, Freddie Mercury, and this guy Mark Mattel. It was a sort of hybrid. So it can be done. You know, you can take, obviously, I don't know how it's done, but you know, you can combine voices and make this kind of amalgamation. So yeah, they could do that with Hayden Christensen, I guess, and James L. Jones, and maybe an impersonator or something. You know, just put it together and make it sound good. It's Disney; they've got the money, they've got the technology. So
The one
why
thing
not?
that put me off was like it was Hayden Christensen on Return of the Attack of the Clones, and he looked old as fuck.
Yeah.
See if it was Revenge of the Sith with the long hair, I could have got away with it. But see, because he still had the wee thing, the wee ponytail thing.
Again,
I don't. What the fuck?
I guess I don't think I'm the right person to sort of come to about that because I don't care. Like,
you didn't care.
That this has been made 20 years after those prequels. You know, the guy's aged; he's 40 now. It's like people moan about El Camino with Breaking Bad and how, what's his name? Fantastic actor, looks like Matt Damon.
The blonde guy.
Yeah, I can't remember his name right now. Jesse Plemons. So,
yeah, I was going to say that.
So Jesse Plemons is in that show, and he's put on a lot of weight since Breaking Bad, and people are like, "Oh, that's bullshit." That's
what it was.
It's been 10 years. The guy's getting married, and he's ate some food, and he's put on weight. Who cares? Like, it really doesn't bother me. So I don't really care. But I get it. People do, and it takes them out of it, and whatever. You know, if the acting's good and the writing's good, then
that's what it was. So he's set around the same. So Better Call Saul got to a point around season 4 of Breaking Bad, and that character reappeared because Jesse killed him, didn't he?
Yeah, Jesse kills him at the end. Yeah. Also, top of Better Call Saul, Bob Odenkirk is in he unfortunately took a heart attack last year, but he is okay. But he's in much better shape now than he is in Breaking Bad. If you go back and watch Breaking Bad, he's quite chubby. You know,
he was a chubby guy.
And then you watch, and then you watch like Nobody, and he's built like a pure wee tank. So you know, fair enough. Like it really doesn't bother me. Like, see if an actor wants to either get healthy or let go, let them. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm really not that guy. It's like, you have to be this weight for that consistency. You have to be like. It's like they're just people doing their job. I really don't
it's
care
not
that
real.
much. But
it's
anyway,
all fake.
Maybe that's just me. But Kenobi's good. I'm looking forward to next week. I do think they need more time. I think it's the whole season's felt so condensed so far. It's not had enough room to breathe. A lot of the stuff the revelations that have happened haven't really been addressed.
I read somewhere that
I would like to see
TV budget. Like, it got a TV budget rather than the normal
Apparently
shows.
the budget wasn't as good as what it was for Mandalorian.
It's a bit mad, yeah.
So I think that's maybe why they didn't de-age Hayden Christensen, because it's apparently quite expensive.
Sorry, I cut you off.
No, you're right. I'm just going to say, like you were saying earlier, that you heard that they were going to renew it for a season 2. I really think they need it.
They probably need it.
I get what you're saying. Like, linking it into A New Hope might be difficult, but right around it. Do you know what I mean? Again, they're Disney. They should have the best writers in the world. Like, make it make sense and just give it more room to breathe and give us more Obi-Wan. That's
Yeah,
what I want.
I don't know what it was. It was just like I think it must have been a stick up my ass when I was thinking about that. But I think, see, I would rather want to watch more of like Ewan McGregor, like going through it and like talk. I really want to see him try to connect with Qui-Gon Jinn. We get Liam Neeson in there if it's
Uh-huh.
possible.
The-
If
no,
the PR team on Liam Neeson gets good press,
I
like
think
you know.
I think next week they'll definitely have at least his voice. I think we'll also see him as a Force ghost, but at very least we'll hear his voice.
Yeah, very strange that he hasn't like. There's been no. He hasn't been
Yeah.
like.
You
I
can
don't know. No
mention
scenes
one.
of him trying to call him since. Like
Help
Yeah.
one
me.
thing I don't know if I mentioned last time is
Again,
that
that's because it feels rushed. I think. You know,
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
a product to that.
one thing that I did like about it was that I don't think anyone really expected it. Well, I didn't because I hadn't looked into it at all, but didn't expect it just to be about Leia mainly.
Yeah.
So I was just going to say, yeah, Kenobi. I wasn't looking into it prior, but like that, it was switched to, and I think that's where the episode was kind of leading up that it was all going to be based on. Is it Tatooine again? That's
Yep.
last time.
Yeah.
That it was going to be following him like in the shadows, following Luke, but then it just went bang. Nobody's actually going to follow Leia for the show. Which
When it comes to that, I do feel like, do we really need another show just set on Tatooine? Like,
Oh, I was
I'm so
like,
sick
no.
of seeing
This
Tatooine. so
anchor needs to get unfucking weighed.
yeah,
you
like
know?
seeing other planets and stuff was a positive, I think. But
Hmm.
just every single plot line on another planet revolving around Leia is maybe a bit overkill. But
Yeah.
I guess they need the driving
mean,
force.
she's
Yeah,
the
they need to
girl's
have
good. The
something.
wee lassie's good. I think.
She's
I like
really
her.
good, yeah.
And,
Yeah, I think I was saying that last week that at certain points I was like, oh, I don't know, but like she's really charming, like she's very good.
well, that's the thing. If she was shit, it would be super annoying because you'd be like, "Why are we watching this stupid wee actress
Why are
that
we
can't?"
watching
You
this
know.
kid?
Whereas when she's good, it's like, well, okay, it's not Kenobi's show, but it's still entertaining. Do you know what I mean? At least you get that. So, yeah.
And it's episode 5. We're all up to date with episode 5, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought it was really good. Sorry, we were just talking about all of that, like maybe just zoned out a bit, but the fight stuff was really good. I thought, to a degree, there was a little bit where like he was working it out with what's her name,
Reva.
Yeah, that like, oh, I'm just gonna go in here and you fucking tell him to come in here. Like that was I was like, called him, but then Vader had to go in and find him again. Or, no, he just went back into the other people, like, and they went off.
Yeah. I also thought it was a few dumb decisions made. Like the decision for Reva to attack Vader the way she did. Obviously, that wasn't going to work.
Fucking
Like,
lunacy.
what did you think?
You better
was
off
gonna
tag teaming him,
happen?
like.
I mean, it was stupid. And then, like, what I'm not the only person to say this, but what she should have done was what Kylo Ren did. I can't believe I'm using The Last Jedi as a positive. But see what Kylo Ren did to Snoke when he put the lightsaber up, it was switched off, and then he's like using the Force, and then he switched it on, and the blade went through him. You know, that's the only way you take Vader out. If you ignite your lightsaber and then swing at him, obviously he's going to stop you.
Yeah, or even how he killed Han. He just turned it on in front of him, like.
So
walk up to him and
so there was that, and then there was also the fact that Vader just stabs her and then leaves her.
Yeah,
like,
and then they leave the little thread of her finding the thing. Like it doesn't really make sense for her to use that information and bring it to Vader.
Like Vader's literally standing next to the Grand Inquisitor, who's already been stabbed and survived, so he knows that a stab from a lightsaber doesn't kill you.
Yeah,
and yet he just stabs her and leaves her.
Yeah.
And the way he was walking up with the two swords, I thought he was going to do the Count Dooku cross his head off.
Guillotine,
That's what I was waiting for, and then. But then again, I know that next week you're obviously going to get a redemption for Reva. She's going to turn good and help Obi-Wan. Like, obviously, that's how it's going to go. So I guess if you killed her, you couldn't have that. But I don't know. I just found.
And we knew she wasn't going to kill him. Like,
yeah, no, obviously. But I just found that confrontation weak. Like, either she should have maybe not killed him, but damaged him, or he should have killed her. You can't just have.
Yeah, I think it would have been better if he just like full stop killed her. Like.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems weird. Dumb decisions.
Yeah, I think that's that very last choice of her finding the thing. You're like, it would have been much better. And actually, yeah, if he just did Count Dooku killed her, like that would have been far more interesting. I think.
Because I'm sure that even Daver, I was going to say Daver. Who the fuck's Daver? Like I'm sure that Daver.
Lord Davis.
Lord David. I'm sure Vader's killed people that are like less,
Yeah.
like done stuff that less severe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even the guy in the fight, he choked him.
Aye.
Killing random
for
people.
losing some.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, she tried to kill the fucking
Yeah, and he's just like, that'll do.
He's like, oh, I appreciate it. You know, I won't kill her properly. I mean, I liked the way like he showed how strong he was, but he was just ripping the fucking ship apart.
So-
Like, and that made me think, fuck, Kurobi's got no fucking chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
And
it's-
it didn't seem like, why couldn't he just grab the other ship?
So that was my next question. He
Or
grabs that
grab
one-
something from the other ship and just fucking at it, like.
Yeah.
Fling it.
Well, again, we've already seen him doing that. He done that in the last episode with the Rebel. Remember the two Rebel?
Reva did, was it no?
Oh, was it Reva that did that? That threw the thing at it. But yeah,
Yeah.
Vader can obviously do that too. So yeah, why not? Again, I thought it was a cool scene, and I think the double ship thing partly took him by surprise, but also partly, I'm not saying that he let them get away, but I think he was kind of like, fair enough. Do you know what I mean? When he looks up, and
Oh,
he sees
you.
Kennedy, he's like,
I
yeah,
know.
he's like, oh, you Kenobi, like I don't know,
Again.
Oh,
bit of
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I didn't bother
I
me too
mean,
much, but
I get that one. I think that one's good. Like that's acceptable, that getaway. But seeing like the second episode where
Yeah.
he was just separated by fire,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, there's a fucking pattern here.
Aye.
Why are you just letting him get away?
aye,
Like-
just walk around it, like it's not across
Aye,
the whole
you
desert.
can walk.
Just wa-
You can
yeah,
walk
or you can
through
walk
this
through it, you can
fucking
walk
thing.
up
Or he
legs
literally
anyway.
turned it off like a second beforehand.
Aye, exactly. He's fucking forced. But like, I even think the suit. I don't know if it's changed, but I remember reading in the comics and stuff that like it's supposed to be fireproof.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if they've changed that. But I was like, fucking hell! Like he can walk through
I
that.
think-
He's letting him go.
And do you want to know
Like,
the worst
all
thing
the
about it
time.
all? I think it could be written better than that wouldn't be an issue. Like,
Yeah.
see if they hadn't, they've made their own bed, the writers, because they've really written the fact that Vader is desperate for Kenobi. All he wants is Kenobi. He's built this whole team of Inquisitors to find him. He's so obsessed with him, but then when he's faced with him, he just lets him go. And it's
Yeah.
like, see if he wasn't as obsessed with him, and it was more just like he happens to bump into him, and maybe both of them are quite shocked. Like Obi-Wan's obviously shocked that he's still alive, and even Darth Vader's like, "Oh my god, you're still cutting about, old man! Like what the hell?" And then he lets him go. That would be more believable because maybe he still has a bit of compassion for him because he used to be his brother Anakin and all that.
Brother.
Whereas
Because
now he's like, "Oh, I hate him. I want him to die." There he's there, but let's let him fly away. Like that just contradicts itself.
'Cause
If
even
you
in
made
the-
him a
in the
bit
New
more
Hope-
nonchalant towards killing Obi-Wan, then fair enough, he would just let him get away because there's a part of him that maybe doesn't want to kill him. Like deep down, because he's his own master. Whereas they've not written it like that, and that's a miss.
No.
I think.
Because that would make more sense for the New Hope stuff. Because I think even in the New Hope he was saying, "I've not felt this presence since," and he didn't go, "Oh, fucking Obi-Wan!"
Yeah.
You know, I can feel him. You know, he didn't have this rage.
Yeah,
So it does kind of connect to what you were saying, that it just happens to come upon him,
yeah,
and like because he somehow forgot. Like that's one thing I'm always interested in. Like he's forgot Padme. I think
uh-huh.
he's forgot Padme exists for
Uh-huh.
some reason.
Yeah. She never gets
Like,
mentioned really after.
She never
dies.
gets mentioned. Aye, but he's
Obi-Wan talks about him more than Anakin does.
aye, and
weird.
it's like see if you try to push that narrative in a little bit, like him thinking about that a little
Yeah.
bit more, that emotional bit.
Right.
That would make me say, right, I want to see more of Vader
Yeah.
because you're so much more that he's not just a
You've-
fucking angry bastard.
You've
You know?
definitely touched on something there, Chrissy, because
Uh,
maybe obviously you can kind of justify him not speaking about Padme in public because he doesn't want people to know that he's Anakin, like that's a
Yeah.
secret. But with the back to tank scenes, he could have a flashback. He could say her name. He could, do you know what I mean? You could explore it there more than what they have.
Yeah, flashback. And like,
Yeah, I
just
agree.
even to reliving bits or whatever.
Just when he's talking about how much he hates sand, just a nice flashback like that, just to hammer that point home.
imagine they just took that clip and just
Yeah, that's why he didn't chase Kenobi over the fire. It wasn't the fire; it was the sand.
sand.
Obviously,
It was the sand,
it.
the bastards.
Really?
I hate sand.
Yeah, really. Obi-Wan should just force lift the sand and throw it at him, and then he'll be fine.
Technically, he's not really got a problem because he's not got any legs, so it's his robot legs. So maybe he's got like,
Yeah.
oh, I
Sand
don't like
can't.
my legs.
Sand can't get between robot toes.
Self-cleaning toes. He's got window wipers on his like small toes. Get the sand out of them.
When the wipers are seeing his bits.
on his toes, on his toenails. and
I
stuff.
love the idea that he's standing in a dramatic speech, his toes are being wiped, like as he's doing it.
That's why he's got that hefty breath to like kind of negate the noise that they would
Yeah,
make,
it's like-
the squeaking noise.
Obi-Wan, I have come for you. Oh, that feels good. Yeah, that's the spot. Obi-Wan, I will kill you. He's just going between the two. Like... Right, let's move on to the bit.
That's our sequel. Disney picking it up.
Mate, you're writing this better than they are. What can I say? Yeah, so although I'm up to date with Obi-Wan, I am not up to date with the boys. I've watched the first 4. I've not watched the 5th.
Mhm.
I don't know where you guys are with the boys, but I've really enjoyed the first 4. I think it's great.
It's unreal.
I've not actually, like, every person I've talked to says it's amazing. I've not actually had the chance to actually pick up and watch the full from the beginning.
Have you not
So-
seen any of it, Chris?
No.
Oh man.
The I don't know why, but the only thing it was like pushing me towards it at the moment was because is it Carl
Urban.
Urban.
Aben?
Carl
Carl Urban?
Apers.
Because I watched Urban. I know I'm fucking up here. No, I watched Jed recently,
Yep.
and I was like, I'm going to watch The Boys because I actually fucking, if it's going to be, because I saw a trailer, it was quite gruesome,
Listen,
and I was
Urban-
like,
Carl
if
Urban
it's
in
like
that
this.
show. So I was listening to Courtney the other night. He's not like a legit. I don't know. He's so unique in that show because it's so obviously an Australian doing a Cockney accent. It's
Yeah,
so
it's not
not.
the best accent.
It's so not Billy Butcher in the comic, but it's so much more. Like Carl Urban's added layers to that character. Like he's funny, he's heartfelt, he's scary, he's I don't know. The range that he shows, even though his accent isn't great and it's a bit not cheesy. That's not the word. Just a bit maybe I don't know, like subpar. Not because he's amazing. Like not subpar. I don't know what the word is, but it's maybe not like legit to what the character is meant to be when it was written, but he has taken that source material and he's built on it, I think, and he's expanded it into a rich, detailed character. And I think it takes a great actor to do that, and I think he absolutely nails. Even though you can maybe like technically say like, "Oh, that's a shit accent," what he's done with the character, I think, surpasses any of that. In my opinion.
Well, it's like I was bringing up last week. Comic Tropes did a video about it. About I think it was when season 2 came out, saying how it's elevated the comic is about like the guy who does Comic Tropes says he's a big Gareth Ennis fan, but he doesn't really like the boys comic because it's just like it's kind of more of a satire on superheroes. But the show has shifted the focus to make it a satire about celebrity and capitalism and such. So that's why it's more relevant now. And speaking on that, so I did mention last week that he got so it was Nerdstalgic who did the videos. They're kind of like another version of What Culture. That he was like, no, like they literally plagiarized my video. Because they're a site for hire, so they'll get people to do videos for them. And people had, I guess, got onto Nostalgic and they reviewed it and they've taken down their video now.
All right.
Because your man literally did, whoever it was made the video, literally did plagiarize this video. But yeah, kind of based on that, they moved it, so it's not just about superheroes, it's more about corporations and stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
Like, I watched episode 5, they're loving it. Not really fully sure where it's going to go, because I guess, like, the big thing for this season is they've really zeroed in on, like, okay, we got to do something about Homelander. And,
But that's my thing with it. I don't, although I've read some of the comics, I think I've read the first 4 volumes. I'm at the point now in the show where I don't know where they're going to go. And that's quite nice, because I've kind of known certain points, certain touch points that have happened so far with just certain characters being introduced and killed off and whatever. And now I'm like, I've got no idea where this is going. And that's nice. It's nice to tune in and be surprised. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not know what's going to happen. Chris, I genuinely envy you getting to watch all of it for the start.
Oh, stop, yeah.
I wish I could do that.
I mean, I don't know why. Like, I think it was one thing I never really thought I had access to Amazon Prime, even though I'm an idiot. You do when you have the free delivery.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I can watch these TV shows. So, I mean, I don't know what's stopped watching. I don't know why I'm not wanting to watch it. I
Do-
mean, I've got all the time in the world, and
Do
I don't.
you know something as well? See, as a DC fan, I think you'd love it because, as long as I mean, I know you're not one of these DC fans that pure takes it so seriously and kind of laugh at DC, like,
Oh, yeah.
which is why I think you would enjoy it. Like, see if you're a pure DC stan and the idea of slagging Zack Snyder gives you bad dreams, you might not like the boys. But see if you're willing to laugh at the sillier aspects of the DCU, this show is
Oh, yeah.
for you. Like the way that Homelander's treated, the way like Jerd saying, the media, how they treat superheroes. Courtney actually made a good point the other night. Courtney was saying how she loves the Kardashians, right? And they're on Disney Plus now. So she was watching the Kardashians, but I was editing a podcast or some shit or playing a game, I don't know. And then I went in and sat down and went, right, we'll watch The Boys. And then she was watching The Boys right after, and she went, oh my god, this is so similar to the Kardashians. Like, see the way that they're treated and held up as these kind of icons and idols and what's the word? Almost like godlike in the eyes of the pure
Yeah.
mortal. That is like it is a total parody of the Kardashians. I mean, literally in this season, they have a scene where A-Train does an advert where he stops a protest and he hands out an energy drink, and it is a parody of a Kylie Jenner advert where she stops a
Pepsi
protest
thing?
and hands out
Yeah,
a Pepsi. So,
it.
like, it is to the T. Just and like you're saying, it's an expansion of the comic because not only is it taking the piss out of superhero culture, it's taking the mick out of social media and
Celebrity,
what
like they are the superheroes are
reputation.
treated more as celebrities, like really, with a public
Reputation
image.
and cancel culture, and like I was saying earlier, like see the feigned inclusivity that corporations try and pull when they want to make money, and they're all like, "Oh yeah, we support BLM or Pride," and it's bullshit. It's just to make money. Like they absolutely
Yeah.
nail all of that, and it's a perfect show for the crazy era we live in. I think. Do you know what I mean?
But it
In
copies
terms of,
so
like,
much too, because like not exactly spoilers, but in the most
No,
recent
on you
in
go,
their
on you
most
go.
recent
On you go.
episode, someone says Black Lives Matter, and then the superhero responds Super Lives Matter. So
right,
it's like
I'm not
fucking
gonna-
hell. So
that's
they've
funny.
got levels to
So
go
it's,
through.
yeah.
And I said in the chat, the episode 5 has an Unreal cameo, which apparently is a character directly from the comics. But
I think I know the cameo. I think I do know that, but I won't spoil it.
you may or may not. There's 2 actually this week. One is just kind of
Alright,
like
okay.
whatever, but one is really
This
good.
is kind of vague. Is one of them one of the writers of the show?
No. Well, yes, but that's not the one I was on about.
Right, okay. Right, okay,
And
so
that's
say that Seth Rogen in it isn't a spoiler.
yeah, no. I
Right,
think
okay,
he
so-
might have appeared in an earlier episode playing someone else,
really?
or Evan Goldberg, maybe who's the other writer.
Yeah.
He's not a superhero, is he? He must be a reporter or something. Thank God.
He's just some random character.
I can't imagine him like. Like
I was hyper aware of it when he showed up. I was like, is he going to do the laugh? But no, he didn't. Yeah, and like they've himself and Evan Goldberg, his writing partner, who, funnily enough, years ago I actually met. He was in Galway doing just a screening of Superbad, and he was just doing a talk. And I went up to him afterwards because I'd only kind of recently read the Preacher books, and I was like, "Oh, you're doing Preacher?" Because it was like a rumor back then, but this is going back. Geez, like 2008, 2009, and at the time, well, I don't think the Preacher show really came to much. I didn't finish it now myself. I think I was just kind of annoyed that Cassidy wasn't played by an Irish person, but
the end was also super rushed.
Oh
yeah.
But at the time, they didn't have it. Someone else had got the rights to do it. And he's like, "Oh yeah, some other pricks got it." But then I heard they got it back, so it was just kind of cool to be able to talk.
What was he like? Was he all right to talk to? Was he?
I literally, I just got up to say hello to him at the end, and he just talked about random. Yeah, he seemed like a cool dude. Like, I'm a big Seth Rogen fan myself, anyway.
The Preacher show had good moments. It was never going to live up to the comic, but it had good moments, and then the end of it was super rushed. Just they try to do like 8 books worth in one season. It was weird.
Yeah, because the first season was like a prequel to the books.
The first season was a prequel. The first season was the first book. The second season was the second book and some of the third. And then the third season was like the next 7 books, like all in one season. It was so rushed. They've done like time jumps and it felt so rushed. Like, I genuinely think though it's because they were told, you guys have The Boys now, and that's like your main show. So I think they were just like, right, let's just wrap up Preacher. That's the vibe.
Which is weird because they could have made, like, going by to even what that Comic Tropes guy said is like he preferred like Preacher. He thinks Preacher's a better book. They could have had 2 if they just gave Preacher the time.
I also think though it's because of the networks. I think Preacher was on AMC. obviously Amazon Prime, The Boys, you can do more. You can have more violence, more swearing, more creative freedom.
Right,
Whereas
okay.
Preacher was quite, even though there was some gruesome moments, it was way more censored compared to what the comics
Toned
is.
down.
TV.
Yeah.
The comics goes a lot further with a lot of the TV show implied and insinuated some stuff that the comics would show.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And yeah, there's a lot of that. But
Well, one
anyway,
thing about slight spoilers, but next week's episode of The Boys is probably the ones I remember reading when I was younger. Next week's episode is called Herogasm, which
all
is
right,
a
okay,
big, from what I remember in the Boys comic, that's a big fucking punch up with a load of different superhero teams.
yeah.
So I don't know, like I don't think they've really introduced as many. Like in the comic, like even as Comic Tropes was saying, like in the Boys comic, like the Seven aren't the main focus for a while. They're hunting down all these other different teams, but their only focus is really against the Seven, and then like
Yeah.
a couple other things that pop up. So yeah, exciting
Mhm.
times.
So I was going to say, like, it sounds like it gets dropped every week or episode every week.
Yep.
Do you
First
think
three, and
that's
then it's week by week. So it's usually 8, and then the first 3 are dropped, and then it's weekly after that.
do you prefer, like, I'm getting used to the Netflix formula now. Like, do you think like you prefer the week by week because you can talk about it like
I
that,
touched on
or
this last week. I think Jerd said last week that they probably do generate more money and more hype doing it this way, which I agree with.
Yeah,
But
people talking about it week by week as opposed to episodes drop. People
yeah,
talk about it once, and then it's they move
the
on.
one
on?
thing, the
Yeah.
one thing I don't like is what Netflix are doing just now, where it's like here's first half of the season and then you wait 6 weeks and here's the second half.
Oh
I'm,
yeah, aye.
I would
Fuck
rather
off.
just give us it weekly like Amazon or Disney, or just give us it all at once like Netflix used to do.
Yeah,
See this bullshit where it's like here's 7 episodes of Stranger Things and then the next 2 are a month later or
Are
Ozark
coming soon.
or whatever
yeah,
they're doing it with. Like that pisses me off because I think I mentioned this last week, but I lose momentum. See if I'm into a show and then it stops and I have to go back to it and I've got other shit to watch in my backlog. It breaks the momentum. Like I hate that.
yeah.
So either just give me all in one blast or do it weekly. That's my
I
thing.
like the 2 or 3 and then weekly.
Yeah, I'm fine with that
You get,
too.
you get like it's back. Okay, I get to sit through 3 episodes,
Okay.
and then
Yeah.
or 2 or 3 episodes, and then it's week to week. Because then even that too, like the week to week, like most things I watch is because I get to watch them, and then I get to watch people talk shit about them, like we talk shit about stuff. Like a lot of the stuff
Builds
I
up
like
the
to
hype.
listen to, like podcasts, is just analysis of TV shows and stuff.
Yeah.
And not necessarily to build up hype or to, Easter eggs, breakdowns. But sometimes I like to watch a show and then I like, especially if it's a comic book show, I like to watch the Easter eggs and
But
stuff afterwards that I
that's
might have missed.
that's kind of how I've settled on what my favorite Marvel shows have been so far. See the ones that I've kind of week to week looked up YouTube videos, like analysis videos and like predictions and stuff for each episode. They've been the shows I've been the most into. Whereas like
Interesting.
whereas like Loki came and I enjoyed Loki, fair enough, but I didn't do any of that. I just watched it. Do you know what I mean? I just watched it as
Yeah,
it came, and I was like, "Oh, it's done now." Whereas, like One Division, I was like, "What's going to happen next week?" That last twist was a big twist. What's going to
what's
follow that
that?
up?
What's this? What's
And
that?
I was
Yeah,
kind of following it week to week more. So I do think it does affect your enjoyment overall.
yeah. And it's like if you come to a show late, you're not going to have if you have the whole season there in front of you. You're not going to go, oh, well, I'm just going to stop and watch these 3 podcast episodes about these
Yeah,
individual episodes. I just watch the fucking next episode.
of course, yeah. And then just watch the recap at the end, yeah, or the
Hmm.
overall review or whatever.
Yeah, some people do that, but yeah.
Have we got anything else to touch on? I've watched the first Miss Marvel. I've not watched the second yet. I don't know if you want to talk about the second episode.
I've not watched it. Is it any good?
Yeah.
So
Or is it shit? Another Marvel TV?
the first episode had good points and bad points, but I've not watched 2 yet, and I kind of want to hold off making my proper stance until I feel like I need to see more. Do you know what I mean? That's my
Yeah.
position at the minute. I'm like, there's some cool ideas, there's some annoying stuff. I want to see where it goes. That's kind of my take at the minute.
I sound like I'm going to sound weird here, but I actually like having like it's like another female superhero lead. Like I think that's a good kind of way to come in. Like I've not watched any of it, but like, I know Captain Marvel didn't really hit some people, or did it? I thought there was like a rocky road there, and now they've kind of went in with the Doctor Strange, this other person, and then they've got this one other one. So they're leading in with like more kind
I
of
do,
female leads now.
I do sort of agree
males.
that. Well, not agree. I wonder if it's reactionary that the sequel to Captain Marvel is going to be not just her, but also what's her name for WandaVision? Monica Rambeau's daughter.
Monica Rambeau.
America.
Well, no, it is Monica
America's-
Rambeau.
Is it Monica Rambeau? Right.
The
So
mother is something else. But
so she's going to be one of the Marvels, as is Captain Marvel, as is Miss Marvel. So I'm curious if Disney did see the reaction to that first Captain Marvel movie and went, "Oh shit, we don't want to repeat that. Let's do
yeah,
a kind of team up."
they
movie."
respond a bit weird, but like, if anything, that was
It
just the
still made
script.
it still made $1 billion though.
Yeah, but it was kind of like
It's-
Doctor
it's Marvel.
Strange 1. It was a bit dry. Like it was.
Yeah,
I don't think I didn't think it was great.
Yeah.
But then I like just write a better script. Like you don't need to like. It's great to see. Like it's like when you're reading any comic book run, you can have a character show up for a bit. Like it's the same way. Like No Way Home, it's still Spider-Man 3 and it still has 3 Spider-Men, but like Doctor Strange is there. Like that happens
Yeah.
like in comics. So I don't think it's
Yeah.
that big of a thing. And it is always fun to see them bleed stuff up. And as opposed to where was this person when this was happening kind of thing. I just don't think it wasn't really necessary to add them in, but it's cool to see it at the same time. I just think they should have been more focused on writing a better script.
I think that Captain Marvel, a lot of it was to do with the timing of it. It came out just before Endgame, between Infinity War and Endgame. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it was like
the buzz from it.
was that like March and then Endgame or Infinity War was it? Was there anything in between?
Ant-Man and the Wasp. That was also in between. It was Captain Marvel and Ant-Man and the Wasp. I'm sure were the two between Endgame and Infinity War. But that's the thing. It was like Infinity Wars just left us with this massive cliffhanger, such an emotional moment, kind of like Empire Strikes Back. Half the heroes are dead. What's going to happen? Oh, but here, let's go back to the 90s and focus on this character that you know nothing about and you haven't seen before. It was just weird. It was like Black Widow as well. Just weird timing. See if Black Widow came out after Civil War, or if Captain Marvel came out earlier in the MCU, I feel like they would have both been received better. But by the point that Disney showed them, nobody really cared. Nobody cared about Captain Marvel because we were all thinking about Infinity War, and nobody cared about Black Widow because we knew she had already died in Endgame. So it was like, who gives a shit? Do you know what I mean? I think that's the main issue with those movies. I don't know if they're bad movies. They're fine. Both of them are fine. But I think they would have resonated better if they came out in a different time.
Yeah. I know. Personally, I'm just like, I just don't think the script is that interesting.
Mm.
Or the direction. I don't know. I have nothing against the Brie Larson or anything like that.
I know that we're a comic book podcast, but it's keep shit into it. It's the scripts are always
what?
The average batting average for superhero scripts is kind of
would you fuck off? Should look at like fucking Endgame, fucking Spider-Man. Well, let's not go so much on the newer ones, but like
I'm just trying to throw some controversy in before we get to the debate. That's all.
Get me around up, but like any script can be good.
I've got notes. I'm writing notes.
Just the thing I watched. I fucking forced myself through all 3 Jurassic Worlds this week.
Yeah,
I was meeting up with strangely, I worked in 2 Tesco's, and the people I've stayed in touch with out of both of those Tesco's, well, the main like my guys from each job. I have the running joke of just talking about Jurassic Park and just going, "Welcome to Jurassic Park." Right, if you just were walking around the shop and like I'd see them, I'd be like, "Welcome to Jurassic Park." That's my kind of like if I find a Jurassic Park meme, I can send it to both group chats at the same time. So I went to see one of the lads from that.
Do they like Jurassic Park? The people you went with?
There's one guy. He loved it. He loves Jurassic Park, and actually, one of the only people I know who might listen to this show regularly. Hi, Bart. Here's the bollocks. But no, so I remember I didn't go with Bart. Bart wasn't there. But I went with another lad, and he loves all his fucking 80s films and like Arnie films and all this kind of like. We used to always talk shite about just like, well, that's kind of besides the point. But he loves the original Jurassic Park, like absolutely loves it. And I was telling him before going, I was like, oh man, the reviews for it are awful bad. He's like, oh fuck it, it'll be grand. And we got up and finished. He was just like, oh, why can't they make a good sequel? Like, so I watched Jurassic World, thought it was absolute muck. I I rang my dentist on Friday to see could I get a Saturday appointment anytime soon. And they're like, "Oh, we can do a film for you tomorrow." I was like, "Okay, fair enough." And then I was like, "Oh shit, I'm supposed to be going to cinema in the afternoon," but I was like, "Right, I'll try and watch Fallen Kingdom afterwards." So I managed to watch it. I finished it on the bus on the way in, and like I was joking, I was looking forward to the film more than watching Dominion. Like, I think my expectations were so low for Dominion after watching the other two. And also like I hate Chris Pratt now. Just I can't stand. Well, hate's maybe a strong word, but I just his whole shtick. I'm just like, ugh. The scripts are fucking terrible. The CGI is terrible. There's always this fucking. I heard some joke about there being like a tag team between two of the dinosaurs at the end of the film. It happens in every film. Like so, the main T Rex from the original film, I think, is in every film. Maybe he's not in Lost World. I'm not sure. I haven't seen the actual original sequels in a long time. But he's in the end of the first one. He's in. No, maybe I think I'm not fully sure about the second one, Fallen Kingdom. Yeah, it's just so dumb. Like, nothing. It's it's really, really stupid. Like, there's some certain elements that are okay, but like every film has things that are aping what happened in the original film.
Yeah.
So like every sequel has something that was very similar to happen. Like so they're just recreating the same set pieces over and over again to a degree. Like they changed some stuff up, but it's like a lot, especially Fallen Kingdom and Dominion. There's this big thing of selling dinosaurs on the black market as military weapons. I'm like, what the fuck?
But military weapons.
Essentially, they're like dinosaurs that you can laser tag someone and then they will not stop at anything until they get that person.
Thing. But
it's not a fucking animal you can shoot, like, you know.
That's my main issue with the franchise. I don't think they don't take what came before and expand on it. Instead, they just it's derivative. Like they just redo the same shit, copy and paste it, and it feels lazy.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel like an expansion or even a respectful homage. Like literally in that last movie, they were just like, "Here's Jeff Goldblum in the trailers," and then in the movie, he's in a courtroom and he's never actually interacting with any of the main characters.
That's in the second one, yeah.
And it's like that's bullshit. That's just derivative, callbacks for the sake of it. That's not expanding the previous sort of saga at all. Like,
yeah, well, he's one of the saving graces of Dominion, like, because he came out with some great lines. So I don't know, have you seen Fallen Kingdom or Jurassic World?
I've seen
Jurassic World. I've seen the first one.
Well, do you know where they kind of retconned? I think the actor is B.D. Wong. I don't know what character he played. He's like an Asian scientist in the very first Jurassic Park. They make him like evil now. Like, doing my once an episode air quotes. But in the last in Dominion, so they're in this place, but they're all on different levels, and it's just Jeff Goldblum being Jeff Goldblum. But like B.D. Wong comes up, he's like, "Oh, I'm really sorry, I did this. I want to make it up to you, and I want to make it up. I want to right my wrongs." And blah blah blah. He gives this whole speech. And then Jeff Goldblum comes out of the elevator. He goes, "Oh, you, it's always you." It's just like nothing. Or there's a bit where like Laura Dern and Bryce Ellis Howard have to go down to a room by themselves, and it's kind of aping the bit where Laura Dern had to go and turn off the gates and things. But they're going through, and there's all these like there's locusts, Jurassic locusts, and they're big fucking things. So they're kind of slowly going through it. Jeff Goldblum is like with another fella. They're just watching them, but they're watching their trackers and seeing them move really slowly. He's like, "Why are they scurried? Just move. You can run. You can run." It's just random Jeff Goldblumisms that like are so fucking funny. Like,
not a scene? I heard there was a scene that's a kind of metaphor for how this franchise has went downhill. Like, obviously in the original, you've got the iconic scene where Sam Neill turns Laura Dern's head to look at the Brachiosaurus, whatever it is, and it's like this amazing technical marvel at the time, the whatever. And then in the new one, is there not a scene like that, but it's just a field? She's just looking at an empty field.
No, so what it is she when she first shows up in the film, she's wearing the exact the same. It might be they're the exact same color. So she has kind of a salmon shirt that's tied, and she's like a blue under top. I might be forgetting what that is. Yes, that's good. Visual representation. But she does she takes off the glasses and she's looking, so they kind of recreate that shot. And like every fucking film has that stuff. It's like, or now the new thing is the hand thing.
What's that?
So what's the hand thing?
Fucking Pratt goes up and he does this to
Right,
the
the
dinosaur.
raptor thing where he's
Well, they do it all the time now, and then like Sam Neill gets to do it. I'm kind of like spoiling it, but like there's a lot of stupid shit in it, like and like then there's a new character who's like an airplane pilot. So I won't say much about it, but there's this little girl that Bryce Dallas Howard and Chris Pratt have adopted. And then this girl is like a smuggler woman. Oh, sorry, this woman then is like a smuggler fighter, plane pilot.
I wonder if she'll be indoctrinated into that racist church that he goes to.
Well, that's more of a homophobic church.
Yeah, sorry, homophobic.
No, the child. Sorry, the child. Yeah, no, but the woman just shows up and she's like, "Yes, I'll just risk my entire life to help you, absolute strangers." And then, like their connections between the old cast and the new cast are so stupid. Like they just like. It's kind of bits where you just have to go, oh well, okay, now they know each other and they're helping each other out. But like it's so silly, like the connections. Like there's some good bits. There's dinosaurs with feathers and shit because it's like a new company and they're making more accurate dinosaurs. And like the last couple of films, they played up the fact that, and well, they say it in the first Jurassic Park that they fill in the gaps with other bits of the genome. So they use frog DNA to make them more stuff and. Like Fallen Kingdom has like a completely genetically modified one, which I guess Jurassic World did too with the Indominus Rex or Indorex or whatever. But now they have an Indoraptor, and
of course they do.
Yeah, there's some little elements here and there that are kind of interesting. And like, but then there's just the T-Rex has to stand and do his big scream at the end, and then he's a hero. He's a good guy T-Rex, or she's a good guy T-Rex. She shows up and.
This franchise, a few years ago, there was a leak. It was concept art, and it was like they were going to do dinosaur hybrid men. So it was like guys that had like scales and sharp teeth and shit. Now, at the time, I was like, "That's so dumb. Thank God they didn't do that." But see, 3 movies later, when they're doing the Jurassic Park Dominion, and they're just doing the derogatory same old, sorry, not derivative, same old bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm like, give us the dinosaur man. That sounds way more interesting than whatever the hell you're giving us just now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it sounds shit, but it'd be better than this. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't know. Well, like as I said in the group chat, I used the AI function. The AI generated image is like, what if we crossbreed the original Jurassic Park with one of the best sequels of all time, Terminator 2?
Yeah. I mean, that's horrifying.
That's terrifying.
You know what I like? He looks like the guy from the dinosaurs that have evolved in Mario Brothers. It's the same kind of head. So I don't know. Yeah. Was there something in between? Oh yeah, a very funny moment from Jurassic World, just to kind of highlight the stupidity of it. So Jurassic World, they open up a new park, and then Jake Johnson,
Yep, Johnson.
Yeah.
He's a comedian, is he not?
Jake Johnson as the schlubby Spider-Man and Into the Spider-Man.
New from New Girl, Jake Johnson.
Yeah.
So he's in the first Jurassic World, and he's weird, and he bought like it in story. He bought like the Jurassic Park T-shirt from the 1993 park, and then Bryce Dallas Howard, who's like basically the managing director of the new, like she's the operational manager. Like there's a different guy who owns it, but she's like running the place basically. She's like, oh, that's in bad taste that you're wearing that T-shirt. It's like your fucking whole company's in bad taste. Like, what are you on about? How can you justify this after the? Yeah, look, stupid. Look, we move on to the topic because we've done about 2 hours on the preamble.
Have we covered Kenobi and everything else?
Aye. I mean, I was going to ask about like because it's got to introduce the new characters in the Jurassic World. Did that do anything for the film? See if they weren't in it, do you think it would be a worse film? Or
if who wasn't in it?
Like Jeff Goldblum, Laura.
Jeff Goldblum saved the film.
Did he?
Yeah. Like
he does that.
Sam Neill and Laura Dern, as much as I love them, didn't really add an awful lot to it. Sam Neill's just kind of repeating an echo of how he performed in the first film, which is really nothing against him because he's a great actor. Like, and Laura Dern's a fantastic actor. She's probably, arguably, out of the 3 of them, she's probably had the more interesting career. Like, really, like Jeff Goldblum. Look, he's Jeff Goldblum. He's a global treasure, but like
Yeah.
He hasn't really done anything. Like, what's he really done in the last 20 years? Like, well, 20 years is maybe I think, but like he hasn't. His more
He was
creative
great.
film. Well, he's done some of the Wes Anderson stuff.
Yeah.
The
But
Fly.
Listen,
That's what
I know
yeah,
it's
it's
not.
like go back to the
I know
80s.
that.
Like,
I know it's pretty kind of mainstream, but I enjoyed him in Ragnarok.
Aye,
oh
Ragnarok.
yeah.
That was great.
Was aye,
But you know what? It's the only thing. But I think that's more based that he's just being himself, and like
Yeah.
he's such an odd person. Like he, as I was saying, I was listening to him on the Conan O'Brien podcast, and it's just hilarious. Like it's just yeah.
He does a
He
lot.
has. I think he has
He's
kind
so
of
weird. Like I never noticed he was that weird when I was younger. Like, but he's an oddest man in the
also
world.
like. I think he's always been an eccentric oddball, but I think for years, like we're saying, he maybe tried to be an actor and go into roles and play these kind of probably have a bit of range and stuff. And then
Yeah,
I think as he's got older, he's just kind of went, do you know what?
Fuck it.
He's embraced how weird he is, and now he just kind of plays Jeff Goldblum, and that's
yeah.
fine because he's great.
No,
Do you
He's
know what I mean?
great.
Like,
He's great.
yeah, I
He's
think that's kind of
no
what's
issue
happened.
with
he's
that.
a magical man.
So
Yeah.
from one car crash to the debate, we are going to move on to this highly anticipated topic. Highly anticipated only by myself, by the way. This is Marvel versus DC. Ding ding. This is like Rocky. This is more intense than a Creed movie.
I want to get my flagship, one of my flagships up here now.
Oh wait, we've got colours as well in the blue corner, representing Marvel.
Oh
all
shit!
the
I
way
shouldn't
from-
really be that.
I should be wearing your t-shirt.
Yeah. Well, I don't think
Whatever.
salmon
He's
pink isn't really the Marvel color, but
Listen, boys, you
It's
can't.
close.
We're not actually the same industry. You can't switch t-shirts. So
will we pause it and put on any t-shirts we can find? No, that's not. We should have thought about that before we.
and in the blue corner from sunny Ireland, we've got the one and only
It's
Jerd.
kind of sunny. It's kind of sunny. Wait, give me a second.
Marvel.
It should be
And-
another reason for me to be episode where I could have been wearing my Spider-Man mask or whatever, but like.
And the red corner representing DC for some reason, even though they're wearing the wrong t-shirts.
Well, he's salmon pink now. In fairness, really.
Hailing
yeah.
from Hillington is Chris and Jameson. So this is it, boys.
Who wants to go first? I'm
So
guessing Jerd.
I want to
He's
own it.
giving a middle finger.
Those are fighting words from Jerd.
That
was a middle finger
he's
from
made
Wolverine.
he's
Or
made
whatever.
a statement
Listen,
there.
Spidey.
So
Statement.
I want to preface this by saying where I am at the minute. I prefer
Glasgow.
DC. I prefer DC Comics. DC
You
Comics
prick.
for me have a bit more
I've
integrity
got the
to them.
advantage.
Marvel seems a bit more throwaway with their stories. They're not as contained and they're a bit more ongoing.
should say this all the time.
It's hard for me as somebody that collects graphic novels to follow Marvel as much as I do DC. However, cinematically, Marvel are leaps and bounds ahead of DC. Absolutely been trumping them for the last decade. DC haven't produced anything near the level of what Marvel have, and that's kind of what I am. So I've got a horse in each race. I've got a foot in each kind of side
How am I
here.
getting this to work? I don't know.
You got one.
So I don't know how we're going to start this debate. Should we just bring up like a bad Marvel movie and a bad DC movie, or a great comic and a great comic from each? Like how do you?
Well, I've got a lot of I've got character depth, posters, styles, struggles, games.
Poster styles. Oh, we
Access-
got a lot of shit to go on here.
Will
we go for overall first, and then break it down into comics, games, or comics, films, and games?
Sorry, where I want to start. Actually, I'll ask the questions. I'm the referee.
You're the moderator.
Jerd, you mentioned earlier that you have always kind of had a bias against DC. Why?
Explain
do you have
yourself.
that
Well, here's my backstory, which I probably have got into before.
Please tell me.
Arguably, Batman was my first superhero.
Yeah.
So, like,
what changed? What did Batman do to you?
What did he hurt? Like what? Wolverine is Marvel's Batman.
He can
so
heal.
you
He
don't
can
want
heal.
to-
Well, it's Moon Knight early, isn't it?
Oh,
I think Spidey's gonna say Spidey's my main man. Oh shit.
Okay.
Yeah. So I grew up before ye to a degree because I'm 35. here
Oh.
fucking attaching toy figures to my head. But I was like 3. Maybe it was more Batman Returns, but I was like 3 when Batman 89 came out. So maybe it was that. But I had older brothers, so they probably would have guided me through that. But I used to go around my house, and I've definitely said this before in the pod. I used to go around my house with like a tea towel tucked into my shirt, and we're like, we used to have them in Ireland. I'm sure you did too, but or maybe not because we did slightly different sports. But we like the orange goalie gloves, wearing them as being like as going around the house as Batman. And yeah, I don't really remember the films that much really, but I used to love the fucking toys. Then the animated series was fantastic. But then, so my brother, as I've said many times before, bought Marvel comics. So he bought like Spider-Man, X-Men, Wolverine solo comics, all UK reprints, and then like at later points, then there was like sometimes he bought Fantastic Four, which was never really that arse with, and then Avengers, which I was kind of liked. I thought it was all right. So Avengers in the noughties and 90s was a bit gammy, like was a bit camp, and they always just like Avengers used to always have like zealot, like the most boring like Sandman was an Avenger, and Cersei from the Eternals, who I don't actually remember seeing her in a comic, but they're the general Avengers comics, like fucking Dark Knight, what's his name? Kit Harington's playing him in the films.
Oh shit!
They just had goofy characters in the Avengers. Like they weren't really that cool until like Spidey and Wolverine joined them. But so the cartoons, like I really got it. Like I fucking fell in love with the Spider-Man cartoon as much as I liked the Batman one when it came through. But like the 90s Spider-Man cartoon was my fucking jam. And then like the X-Men cartoon, of course, great. And then like not so long after they came out, my brother started buying nearly all Marvel comics. So that just bled me into Marvel. That just got me into Marvel completely. Like so, yeah. I never really had DC comics to read. Like apart from when I got to a certain age, I do think that DC, DC, when it comes to graphic novels, books you can pick up and go, oh look, this is a fantastic book by itself. Marvel don't really have them as much, but at the same time, I grew up reading like the Onslaught Saga, which was just everybody in the Marvel universe. I know people look back at the Onslaught Saga now and don't think much of it, but the Onslaught Saga, reading it as a kid, where it's everybody just combining all their powers to fight this big, cool, badass looking monster who looks like a hulked out, roided Magneto. Yeah, I just fucking loved it. And I think in general, just as a generous point of view, and the way DC have got, like a lot of people would say Batman is like the most Marvel DC character because he's just a guy. But he's not, because in later years, like, oh, Batman would beat anyone prep time. And maybe that's the fans like more of an issue with. But like kind of in the way I think that Avengers were goofy. I just think all of DC is goofy, apart from like Batman and Superman. And like Superman, Boy Scout type. But sorry, Marvel in general, they're generally underdogs, and they're not. They're, as we've often said before, DC are all gods. Marvel people are people with powers, but like they're more like people and they're built that way. And the general design of Marvel characters, I much prefer.
Right, Chris.
Right.
I see that.
Right, I agree.
It's over. All the Raimi films were fucking huge for me as a kid too. Yeah, sorry.
I would say, like, see Raimi, I really liked Raimi because it was dark. It was a dark, no dark, but it was a kind of a
horror tone.
You could see it. I could see it was a horror tone with the Spider-Mans. It was more serious than kind of the campy, like kind of live action in the 60s and 70s, like Spider-Man TV shows. But one of your points, you were saying that Marvel they have a lot of like quantity over quality, and I totally agree. I think
it's that exactly. But go on.
Yes, yeah, but like it's a good way. I just thought about it like this way. Like Marvel shows, like Marvel comics and stuff, I think are in excellence. It could be related to a TV show. Like it needs to be a TV format because they've got all these elements that all kind of come together. It can't be a good story by itself or standalone. Like
that's a broad statement, though.
So I think Marvel is more runs. Yeah, go on, Chris.
I agree with you
hear me.
overall, but that doesn't mean that there's no good contained stories in Marvel. Because
There's none. They're all shit.
I don't agree with that. I do agree that overall, yeah, but there is still some good contained stories in Marvel.
But there's one thing about like when you're talking about gods, I do think DC are like they are connected to gods, but in a one weird level, I think they're more accessible. I think like see Batman, like maybe no Spider Man, but like the other kind of characters like Green Arrow, maybe the Flash and stuff like that, they're more relatable in the sense that they go through kind of day troubles and stuff like that. Marvel, I think there's nothing. They're really shiny characters that you can't do anything wrong. But maybe that's wrong with Robert Downey Jr. I loved Iron Man, so you can saw his flaws there. But I feel like there's elements like with Batman Beyond, with Terry. Fuck, I was going to say Terry Gilliam.
Terry McGinnis.
Terry McGinnis. Like you could see him, he was like a struggling teenager because that's the TV show I kind of grew up with when I was growing up. Near that, or you can see him, he's trying to live his life, but he's got this burden of a secret he has to work.
Or a responsibility, like someone called Spider-Man, maybe.
Exactly, yeah, like a responsibility. But it's like I think they're more like DC are more darker because they deal with like issues like say like the Joker film. That's like a kind of depressing thing, but you can go with that kind of a really jokey character and go into a really dark place with them. I don't think you could do that potentially that successful with a Marvel character. Like see the Thor, the Christian Bale was playing. I read some stuff in him. I thought he's really dark. Like in the comics, he's a god killer. Can't remember his name.
Gore. God Butcher or.
But they've kind of I don't know about yourselves if you've seen it, but on the actual film, he looks like kind of tailored back. He looks like he's just a man.
Oh, he doesn't look a CGI, but I think that's more down to let Christian Bale act.
Yeah, because it's in the performance. I think his scariness in that movie isn't going to come from the way he looks. It's going to be from the way he acts.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole point of me is character depth. Like DC have much more character depth. I'll give you Logan and maybe Iron Man, but
you think more of the films as opposed to the actual comics, because that's Marvel's whole ethos being characters with problems, and that's what they did that was different from DC, and it's like Spider-Man having money issues, the X-Men being like, well, not so much they played up the bigotry side of it, but that was Marvel's whole thing, that like that's the Fantastic Four jumped ahead of the Justice League, because Fantastic Four being their first superhero team, they were a family who used to argue and such. That's kind of what was Marvel's whole thing starting off.
I think a lot of it is a DC. They don't really go for the kind of day-to-day problems. They go with the emotions and stuff like that, and deal with kind of hard emotions on a very extreme level. So like, even though Bill Gates, fucking hell, Bruce Wayne is a billionaire, he goes through like so many different troubles like you could relate to.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I mean.
See, if Bruce Wayne was real though, he would have definitely been to Epstein Island, wouldn't he?
Oh yeah, definitely.
He'd be in that book.
He would have been in with the Queen and everything. Like,
I have a thing here. I'm going to ask you both a negative question about each company, and you have to defend it. So
go for it.
So,
no, I'm open wounds here. Like
no. I'll let you close back after this. I just want to get this out because I remember it because I've had a few beers. I'm going to forget. Jerd, how do you respond to the fact that Marvel have borrowed a lot of their ideas from DC? They
like Darkseid
of Thanos.
They
have Namor and Aquaman. Namor was first. They have Deadshot and Deadpool. They have, there's tons of characters that have been sort of ripped off in Marvel and DC. Were the 9 times out of 10. Don't get me wrong, DC have also ripped off Marvel over the years a few times,
definitely.
But Marvel have
done far more, than
DC. So how do you respond to that? Do you just see it as it's fair game, as a creative process? It's fair game, or what?
Well, for the sake of argument, which is what we're doing here, but I kind of believe it anyway. Like, DC have been around a lot longer, so they've had time to do it. But Marvel have, and maybe not always. I'm coming at it when I say biased towards DC. I haven't read a crazy amount of DC. My just because I grew up reading Marvel, I was kind of I was like, just I don't know. I was never really found. My basic thing about the whole thing is, I much prefer Marvel's overall choices in a general way. how the tree character design. Like there's very little difference there between Steve Ditko's original version. Like that is, obviously different shape or whatever, but not really. There's not really, his eyes are a bit bigger. From Steve Ditko's design, the spider's a little bit smaller. Whatever, it's nearly exactly the same design. Now, I don't think Batman or Superman changed that much, but when you think of something like Thanos and Darkseid, whatever, Thanos is completely ripped off. No one is ever going to think in the general populace when they see Darkseid, they'll be like, unless he's done a little bit different, they're going to be like, oh, he's just, well, like, let's not, I think it's a bit unfair to think of it film-wise, but Thanos is a household name now, nearly. He's like a walking meme, like it's everywhere, there's Thanos memes. I guess whatever the writer at the time particularly might have tried to copy that character, and I think Thanos originally was supposed to be a much skinnier character, but then they were like, oh no, make him more like Darkseid. And who else are other big ones that are rip-offs? Deadpool. Like, so in regards to that, like I haven't read much Darkseid, but I haven't read much Thanos either. I think Thanos is a bit oversaturated at this point. I think, some of these choices where the characters are made are decades away from where they are now and how they're used now. I guess Darkseid and Thanos probably fit a similar ilk, but like Thanos is probably a bit more of an anti-hero now within modern continuity of comics, to my understanding. Deathstroke and Deadpool, like Deadpool is entirely his own character. As the guys in the Weekly Planet might say, he lives in his own space.
The thing about Deadpool as well is, I think because he's a parody, almost like a parody character, he gets away with it. Like his ripping off like Slade Wilson and Wade Wilson, that's so on the nose that it's kind of like So
but he kind of like when he started off, he wasn't really seen as like that much of a goofball. Really, I don't think he was just more of a kind of a nutty killer. I mean, I don't even think his mental health was that much of it when he was first introduced. I think he was just a killer guy, and then he became more wacky.
One thing about Darkseid, it's actually quite an interesting fact that actually Jack Kirby is the one that created Darkseid, and he's one of the kind of main guys that created most of Marvel's characters.
Yeah,
and I think he was I think Darkseid was created maybe say the 1970 or 1950 or something, whatever the fuck. But then it was like 2 years later, Thanos got created by another guy. So it is kind of like, you're ripping off somebody. Like, it's all, I think DC was founded in, like, say, 1940, and then Marvel's was founded in 1945 or something. So there's not a big difference between them.
Well, Marvel really only became Marvel in the 60s. Like, it was a different company. It was Timely, and it was something else before that.
Oh, right, okay.
So it was technically the same company, but it got rebranded. So, like, Namor is probably closer to being, like, Superman are, like, 1930s or something.
Aye, it's like 1939.
The vast majority of Marvel characters only came out in the 60s, like Iron Man, Hulk, Thor being a Marvel character at that point, as opposed to just being Norse mythology.
Right, so I've asked Jerd's question. Chrissy, you're now going to have to defend DC. Chrissy, the three biggest characters, right, are Spider-Man, Superman, and Batman. How come two of them belong to DC, and yet they haven't made a good movie yet? Answer me that. How can Marvel do so much with like kind of lower grade characters, and DC have the rights?
Hey.
Again, the rights issue.
Yes,
No. I don't mean that. I mean the rights issue. Like with Marvel, you've got obviously certain characters are owned by Disney, certain are owned by Sony, some are owned by Fox. Well, recently that changed, but for a lot of years that was the case, and yet they were winning the cinematic battle. Yet Warner Brothers own all the DC characters, so why can't they capitalize on that?
I think there's one thing about like the three characters you said was Batman, Superman, and Spider-Man.
They're the big three, right? They're the three biggest superheroes in the world, like in my opinion. If you ask a kid to name three superheroes, it's going to be those three. You know what I mean?
It's going to be those three.
Probably not even Superman anymore. If you ask a kid now, sorry.
No.
Okay, when we were young, those were the big three. Maybe not now because
Yeah,
I'm not a kid anymore, and Avengers is huge. Fair enough. But when I was young, those were the big three. You know, when you went to buy a
Those big.
toy or a bed sheet or a T-shirt, it was always Spider-Man, Batman, and Superman.
It's actually
I
probably
think
not even Batman or Superman anymore if you ask the kids. Sorry.
it's probably something to do with, like, see, the Boys TV show. It's probably them. Like, you know, they're probably the superheroes they want to be. I think it's something connected to hope. Like, Superman is supposed to be a beacon of hope stuff, but they've always got, at the end of the day, they will try their best to do something to make a difference. Spider-Man, again, he's so young and he's such like a not like a underrated, like, people would underrate him
Mhm.
in the sense, oh, he's not strong enough.
He's the underdog.
Like,
Sure.
he's an underdog, and I think that if you looked at it, like, they look for hope at the end of the day, and they say, like, that's even though all the odds are against them, they're going to push it. Batman's a human, right, without any powers. Even though some people say you can prepare, I think it is kind of like, I think that's the only the thing with Batman. He could prepare for that if you give him 10 minutes, he can prepare. But if he just turned the corner and Thanos was there, he'd be fucked. You know. But I think that's one thing about it. Like, you can kind of relate to Batman in a way that you can see yourself in that role. Superman is, you can, if you could do anything in the world, that's what you want to be. You want to be the beacon of hope for other people. You can jump into these characters in different aspects of your life.
So
Batman, you have a secret, you know.
right. So
Everybody has secrets.
you just spoke about relating to Batman. I would argue that the only reason that Batman's the most relatable character in DC is because he's one of the only human characters. Whereas he's still a billionaire. He's still Elon Musk. Like, how relatable is
Yeah.
Elon Musk in reality? He's not at all. So
No, he's
do you know
he's
what I
a
mean?
maniac.
Whereas like Marvel has got like there's a even a lawyer. Okay, it's a good job, but you know lawyers, you know folk that have done. You know, Spider-Man's just he's a pizza boy. Do you know what I mean? And then
Aye.
okay, becomes a professor eventually. But do you know what I mean? It's more relatable. You know, folk that have walked those paths of life, that have done those careers, that have. Punisher was in the army. You know, guys in the army. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like all that's way more tangible than, oh, here's this billionaire and his parents left him all this money. I find that harder to connect to on a personal level. Not that I need that. Sometimes I want escapism. That's why I like DC. Gods and aliens and monsters and intergalactic threats they're entertaining because they take you away from your real life. Whereas Marvel, especially when it's based in places like New York and more kind of working class areas, it's more what would it be like in your real life if there was superheroes, you know, and obviously we've explored that with other franchises like Watchmen and Kick-Ass, I guess, and other stuff. But yeah, I think for me, DC's more escapism and Marvel's a bit closer to home.
I would agree with that. I think, like, if you were to think of Batman in the sense of, you could go in this guy, if you could escape into this world, Batman's world, if you were to take on his thing, that world would be the most realistic. I think you would want to jump around and get criminals and kill and, like, bring them in. I don't think you could be Superman. Maybe you could, but you could relate that to your own world and think of it. There's mental maniacs in your own life. There's a Joker in your life who's your arch enemy. Blah blah blah. And yeah, you could. I'm really
What kind of
going
life
off
do you
here.
live?
I'm really going to
Chrissy going around Glasgow boxing lads.
A mad one.
Well,
Although
we die. Yeah, that
I,
is.
I
On you go.
think I kind of when you were saying about like realistic universes, I feel like any superhero universe is
Oh, it's
so far
supposed to.
removed from yours. Like
Yeah.
even Marvel at this point, which is like I just said, the relatable one of the two. You like
Yeah.
in Doctor Strange, you've got a squid monster with one eye climb up the side of a building in New York, and that's just normal at that point in Marvel. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that's just take the MCU as an example, but these worlds are so insane that like when they see a big portal open in the sky and aliens flying through it, it's just another day. Do you know what I mean? For these people, it's just regular. Whereas for us, that would be insane. So I do think there's a detachment on both sides when it comes to that stuff.
I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head. That I couldn't articulate it properly, but I think that's the kind of separative element of DC and Marvel. I'm not like fucking Zack Snyder's kind of was trying to do like a Marvel thing with, like, gods coming in the skies
Uh-huh.
going to fuck and everything like that. But that's one thing I thought when you just mentioned that, like, Marvel do things like that. The aliens are coming to destroy the Earth and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
GC hasn't done that in the sense of, if you do Justice League and stuff like that, they go and they've got a spaceship and they go and Martian Manhunter and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But they don't have any of these things that happen on a regular basis of that something's getting taken over the world.
Hmm.
Maybe they do. I've not read the comics that much in that element, but I think it's a more human story. Say the Batman animated series and stuff like that. You can go into a person's world and watch that story.
Yeah.
Spider-Man the animated series, you can go into that world and watch that story and enjoy it. I think that's what I like about the DC films more than I do like the Marvel. I like Marvel. You need to watch all these like 40 films to understand what's going on. The DC, it's a contained story. It might mention stuff.
I would argue that DC is more confusing though, because you've got movies like
Would you?
Joker. Well, you've got movies like Joker that aren't connected. The new Batman movie that's not connected.
But
You've got
what
Ben
makes
Affleck
you?
Batman. You've got, like, don't get me wrong, I prefer that. I don't need my movies to be connected. I'm enjoying the different creative takes that we're getting. I'm for that, but Marvel's more condensed and more streamlined, I think, in terms of their movies.
But it's interesting is a point he's made earlier. Like Marvel made that formula to make them all connect.
sure,
Like there was something, I don't know if it was what you were saying, but it was something about, oh fuck, I'd lost it. But it was the fact that they were all, oh no, it wasn't even connected to that. But oh man, I've lost my train of thought. But yeah, you don't need to be all connected. Marvel basically made that decision to say all these films need to be connected.
I totally agree with that.
Basically,
Just because Marvel did that and done
And-
well with it, it doesn't mean that DC should have done that. I totally
No,
agree with that.
but it's been there for about say nearly 15 years maybe. I don't really know, maybe 15 years. So in people's subconscious, they're automatically thinking, where's the next sequel? In any film, look at Jurassic Park that Jerd was talking about. Fucking, they're spitting them out every fucking 2 years. They need to be connected, you know. So it's like I think DC has took a kind of nice approach to say, right, let's not buy into the hype, even though they've fucked up a
Don't
lot of shit.
bullshit though. DC have done
No,
I
that.
don't know
yeah.
if they could have done it, but they couldn't.
DC have done that out of necessity. Yes, I agree.
Yes, definitely.
DC tried
Oh,
for
no,
shared
no,
universe
no,
bullshit
no.
with Zack Snyder. It crashed and
Oh, yeah.
burned, and then they went, "Oh shit, let's just make movies." Like, that was a retroactive decision. Don't get me wrong, it was a welcome one, and I think it's great that they're doing that now. But the fact that they tried to do that the first time and failed is a bit.
Yeah, like I don't know what the fuck they were going on there. Like I liked Ben Affleck and stuff like that. I thought Henry Cavill, well, they were good films. They fucked up. Like they really did fuck up with the shoving them out into one movie and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They really shouldn't have done that. Trying to jump on a train that Marvel's created for like 15
Yeah,
years
had more
in a
time.
2-year track. Yeah, even though you've got like one of the Batman and Superman is like number 1 and number 2, and Daniel Boyd's ranking. like they're like the top universe. They're not going to save 15 years worth of fandom that. As a DC fan, I'm watching Marvel as well.
But I
so
think
it's like,
that was the logic.
you can
I
see
think
it.
the logic at Warner Brothers was, okay, Marvel are doing well, but we've got Batman.
We've got
like,
the two.
we
We've
don't
got the
even
two
need to
big
really
guys,
think about
yeah.
this. We just make a film and then we'll win. And it didn't work out like that.
No.
My next question is more comic based. Where are your thoughts on the comics currently? Because that's my thing. Although I think DC's comics historically I prefer, nowadays DC have restarted their universe so many times that it is hella frustrating. Anything after 2011, really, in the last 10 years,
Yeah.
DC has been a shit show, comic wise. Marvel are having so many world ending events recently. Chris, you touched on this earlier where you were saying how every day in Marvel there's a world ending threat. And it happens so much that it kind of loses its integrity, I think.
Touch, yeah.
So what's your thought on the current state of each comics? Like, for you, Jared, what do you think of Marvel event books currently? And do you think that there's a how do they fix it? How do they go forward and make it more, I don't know, more grounded?
Well, so I guess from like the noughties, Marvel really started like just churning out event comics. So like it was really good for a while because it'd be like Civil War out of that. We'd some of them going back reading them might come across as good, but along that Bendis run there of Civil War.
I like Avengers versus X-Men. Not everybody does. I like Avengers versus X-Men. I think that was a good event book.
I know it was a bit messy. I only read it for like an online book club there a while ago. I think it was Avengers versus X-Men when it was actually when I kind of stopped reading on a regular basis. But there was a really good run there of like Civil War. I like Secret Invasion. I thought it was fun. Dark Avengers, that reign around Dark Avengers. I think it was Reign of Dark Avengers, whatever. Siege. Thought it was fucking brilliant. House of M. A lot of great books coming out of there. Then I think around AVX and Axis, I kind of just completely dropped off. I just like
Fear Itself. That's another good one. Fear Itself is
I
really
enjoyed
good.
that. Yeah, I thought it was like fun to give everyone like a hammer and like corrupt the thing and just have all these kind of slobberknocker fights like with people. I thought it was good crack. Then I guess I kind of like I'm only recently coming back into Marvel, and even now I'm kind of I'm going back over classics that I haven't read or stuff that I've read before, or like I'm currently rereading the Spider-Man run from the noughties, very early noughties, I think it is. And then so the last couple of years since Marvel got the rights back for X-Men from buying Disney buying Fox, they've completely revitalized the X-Men line, which I'm not really up to date with at all. I've made an attempt at it, but I've kind of fallen off. So, but I'm not reading any events currently, really.
Yeah.
Basically, I think Marvel are doing some fun stuff. There's stuff that I haven't really been arse going anywhere near the Avengers in the last while. Just seems
Yeah.
like an awful lot of crap. I think DC seems to have that, but at least it's kind of in the same continuity and it's built on it. DC from my outside look of it, DC have it's restarted God knows how many times in the last while. They were about to do a new restart and then they backed out of it.
Yeah.
And now they're doing some other crisis where the Justice League died, and it's a different. I don't even know, is that in continuity or is not, or I'm not sure.
I don't let DC know at this point.
Yeah, DC just seems really messy, whereas Marvel only seems messy in bits, and there's bits in Marvel that you can pick. Like you can just read all of the X-Men books now, and just I know some people who do. They only from online and stuff. They only read the new the Hickman era or the Krakoan era because Hickman's not writing it anymore. That they literally only read the X-Men now. The only current book I'm reading now is the new Spider-Man by Zeb Wells and John Romita Jr., who's come back, who's also been reading John Romita Jr. was the artist on the book from the 90s I'm reading, so that's one of the more recent issues there. Really nice art. Mary Jane isn't in this issue at all. I don't know why. But, I think there was something to do with a guy in my comic book shop was telling me that there was some chaplain. Marvel are still fucking out events here and there, but that's an issue I think when there's events and there's still so I'm reading I was only catching up on the X-Men and then there was a book called I'm not even sure what it was. It was a big crossover book, and then of course when there's a big crossover book, all the other titles have their own issues relating to that. So I don't think it was Empire, but it was something like that.
Was it Dark Ages?
No, that was a separate book, which I read that actually. I enjoyed that.
Right.
No, there was a book that it bled into X-Men, but I was like, I don't really want to because I'm gonna have to go read
King
it.
in Black?
No. It's something along the lines of Empire. But
there's been that many that it's like
there's been a couple of empires.
That's
so
my point.
Know. Yeah, it's I'm not even sure what it's called, but I knew if I wanted to read the X-Men issues of that, I knew they'd be kind of shit. But then if I was like, oh, well, maybe I should just read the X-Men ones and then also read the X-Men or the main book of whatever that crossover was. But I don't really care. So I still think they're plagued by crossovers, but you can still just read runs and be like, I'm reading the Punisher book. The new Punisher book is supposed to be good. Immortal Hulk is a more recent book that I've been reading. I'm way behind on it. I'm there's 50 issues, I think, but I'm on issue 25 or something. So I've a lot to read in that. But with Marvel, I think while you do have big annoying crossovers, you can still just read runs and stick to those runs.
So for Marvel, the last big crossover I read was King in Black. Shout out to Danny Lore, actually. I interviewed Danny Lore, and really good writer. But King in Black was good, but I feel like both companies have had this problem for the last kind of 10 years or so. That they've just, I feel like when it comes to comics, I don't know, and I hope I'm wrong. And I know there's always new artists coming out and new writers coming out and new blood. I think that's great. I kind of feel like the best is somewhat behind us at this point because I feel like 2000 to 2011, 2012, comic books were in a really solid place. Like all the books that Jerd just mentioned, like Civil War and Fear Itself and Siege and all these solid Marvel books. DC had books like Final Crisis and just I saw Grant Morrison's whole run towards the end of that sort of continuity for DC was solid, and I don't know. I feel like Final Crisis, when that finished, ironically, when they started the New 52, the idea was to simplify it and make it easier for new readers. And because they've restarted it 4 times since then, it's just became so complicated. Like, what started off as a mission to streamline things
Make it
has just
simpler.
added so
Fuck
much
that.
more complication that it's like, honestly, with DC, that's why I'm like, pick a writer you like and follow their books. Like Scott Snyder, I like Scott Snyder,
That's
so I'll read,
exactly
Yeah.
what I was
I'll
going
read
to
his Batman, or I like Grant Morrison, I read their Batman, or I
Batman.
like, you pick an artist or a writer and you follow their work. That's the easiest way to I think, to sort of navigate it. But Chris, what's your thoughts on the current state of DC and the fact that they've done 5G and Rebirth and whatever the hell the name of all the other restarts have been like?
To be honest, it's kind of like a kind of plague that fucking DC's under. Where even like the films now, they have to just restart the
Yeah,
films.
yeah,
They're
yeah.
like just they've got like a plague of just the bad luck over the fucking years. No, but I mean, it is just you can't follow. I totally agree with what you were saying. Like you need to pick a writer. I know that's kind of like the kind of thing you would do, but like Grant Morrison and like Scott Snyder's the guy I follow and who actually got me into because like he's kind of I think Scott Snyder has actually stopped writing for DC or at least had a break.
So him and I can't remember the artist that he works with, but they did their final Batman book anyway. They'd done a book
Yeah.
and it was like they said this is the last time we're doing it. I can't remember
I
what it's
think it
called,
might have
but it
been
was apparently really
Batman
good.
Who Laughs or something. I don't know if that was a
No,
series they
it
do.
was
But
so the cover had Batman holding a lantern, like a green lantern. He was holding it in his hand, and it was like
The
a
Last
red
Night or
background.
something?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's it.
Last Night
I
or
think
something.
that's the last one that they're working on as a team. I don't know if Scott Snyder maybe will work with another artist in the future, but as of just now, that's their last book, I think.
Because that's one thing that's kind of scary. Like he
Sorry,
showed
the last
DC
night on Earth. I'm sure it was called that. The last night
Last
on
Night on
Earth.
Earth. Like that's when you realize that shit. It is the writers and the artists that really pull this together. It's
Yeah.
not the fucking characters at
Yep.
all. Characters are just soulless. It's
Yep.
the guys that can put the words in the mouth and the people that can actually draw them. It makes them interesting. Like it's
We mentioned Batman v Superman earlier and how I was just kind of predicting that Warner Brothers were probably like, this is a guaranteed win. Like, just put Batman Superman in. We don't need to think about it. But they do. They need to think about who's behind it. I don't hate Zack Snyder personally, but I think you don't just assign anyone to that job and just be like, they can make a film. Just make it with these
No.
characters and it'll be successful. It's not as simple as that.
definitely like see even from Zack Snyder's work over the years, I think he started as a visual artist or a visual person.
His films
you
look
can
amazing.
see
His films
you
look
can
amazing.
see films look fabulous, brilliant work. But I can definitely say that's the way he went. He either sold the DC, like their universe, the multi-universe, as look at these characters, we can make them look great.
Yeah.
And yeah, the costumes look great. Well, in my opinion, they look great. The films look quite nice to look at visually, but there's nothing there really. You've got the names of Wonder Woman, Batman, but you've lost that kind of essence. And I think that's where Marvel's done it well with, like, see, even like the X-Men movies. You had 3 X-Men movies, and then you brought out 3 Wolverine movies, and then you brought out Logan. And Logan was the best of, I would say, all of the X-Men Wolverine movies. And you could see that that's how you make a story. You know, you don't just take a character you could do Wolverine, put Wolverine against like Sabretooth. I know they've done that in X-Men, and make that the big clash. Maybe no, because they're not really that big. But from Marvel side, that could be a massive clash in a movie. It wouldn't have the same effect if that was the first fucking movie. You know?
Yeah.
It's like it's that kind of element that I think DC just took for granted, saying, "Oh, people are into comics now, and they love Batman and Superman. Let's put them all together, make a trio." No, that's not how it works. You need to have good writers like Scott Snyder. I know, sadly, he's moving on. I think Grant Morrison might be coming back, but I don't know. I saw something like
Grant
might be
Morrison
coming
is
back.
working with another company, a smaller company that's not either of the big two. I can't remember who it is. Is it Boom? I think it's Boom Comics. So
Boom Studios,
yeah, I think that's more. I feel like these studios are a wee bit more creator friendly, and it's kind of like you can do what you want. Whereas I think
and
DC
own
Marvel
your
are a
own
bit more.
projects.
Yeah, DC Marvel a bit more constrictive. So I guess.
Or is it Boom? Isn't I think I might have heard something like Boom isn't actually as free as it appears to be. Something like Image, but it's maybe not as.
Oh really?
It's not as free as we once thought.
I think it could be as like they do kind of tie things up a bit. They're not as free as like creator friendly as his image might be. I think that could be from the guy I always mentioned, Comic Tropes. Might have mentioned something like that. That it's not as actually. I could be wrong. Maybe he was speaking about a different company, but it kind of has that aura of being like that, but when it's actually not.
So, ding ding, round 10, final round. Let's give us some. Chris, you have some stuff written down. Well, just give us your final points on what you've got.
But let's just say, right, okay, this is coming from a designer's perspective. Look at the posters; they're so much cooler, so much more more atmospheric.
Well, give us some
Film
examples.
posters.
Like
Yeah.
Endgame, right? Let's put Endgame together, right? Look at that; it's just a collection of fucking faces, and then you put the Dark Knight, which is like a burning cross, and it's a lot more storytelling within a poster.
Not Burning Cross,
And
Jesus, not Spike Lee film.
no burning cross, burning Batman, burning Bat.
Not Black Klansman. No, but
like there's storytelling within the poster. I think.
Yeah, it should be in the film.
I don't.
No.
I don't agree with that on a surface level, because look at
Shocking.
Look at some of it. It's the same with any movie. Look at some of the posters for the Batman. Some of them were that red and black, gorgeous minimalist look, and some of them were that horrible orange filtered sepia toned amalgamation of characters with the logo at the bottom, and it was just ugly. So any movie has their. Look at the Thor movie that's coming out. Some of those posters are gorgeous. And some of them are
that one of them just up with the hammer. That's actually that's
Yeah.
what they're showing in the cinema now. It looks amazing. But then there's that other group shot one that looks terrible.
Yeah, it's the same with No Way Home. That's some gorgeous posters and some really ugly posters. It just depends on the movie, I think.
I think a lot of it is Giant's got. I was going to give Waititi a kind of prop for that. Giant's got any element of the director's like point.
I think his influence has affected this.
Yeah.
But there's a whole creative team.
But he's putting that idea behind the film that it's there anyway. That like the creative whoever's in charge of doing the posters will be like, oh yeah, we can do this. But I'd say he'd be like, look, I want this. I'm pitching, or I'm going to back someone or commission someone to do this particular poster, and then he like brings that to them and such.
Let's. I was just going to say a couple more points. See, we've won already with the games. I'm sorry.
Whoa! That's
arguably.
No, yes, we've
Go
won.
On, make your point.
DC.
What's better about DC games?
Oh, the Arkham games.
No,
all
the
games.
Arkham games. Arkham Knight was shit.
Arkham Knight is good.
Arkham Knight is so disappointing. They teased the Battlefield for 2 games and then give you a shitty tank controls with horrible gun mechanics. Like, no. Arkham Knight.
It's alright.
That's the game that gives Batman a spider sense, isn't
it? Yeah.
Arkham
games has that. Listen, what about Spider-Man PS4? You can't deny that's a great game.
I've not played it.
And we got Spider-Man Miles Morales with Wolverine coming in. With Spider-Man 2 for the PS2.
So the only kind of connection.
X-Men Legends games, I must say.
X-Men Origins Wolverine might be a shit film, but it was some game.
Yeah, the fucking.
It was a good game.
X-Men Legends games too are like well worth a look.
But I would say if Spider-Man, I would take the Miles Morales and the Spider-Man remake. If it's anything like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2, if it's like a build on that, well, maybe we've got a middle ground. Maybe.
It is exactly. That's what they kind of based the web swinging on that. But it's not even. Yeah. Spider-Man PS4 is one of the best Spider-Man films ever made.
Spider-Man PS4 is one of the best PS4 games you can get. Not just superhero games, it's one of the best. But then again, Arkham City is one of the best superhero games you can play. So I love both.
What else we missing? Hulk Ultimate Destruction on the PS2.
That was good, yeah.
Still back a while. That's really good. The prototype prototype.
Yeah, they made prototype. Yeah.
I was going to say there was a couple of good Spider-Man games. I shouldn't be fucking helping you here.
But Spider-Man.
On the PS1, the Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 2, the Shockers
Into the Retro.
Into the Retro, and that was a belter of a game. But also you had George Clooney, Batman, and Robin at the PS1, which was a belter.
Did they make a game of that, really?
Aye,
the
Batmobile was in that, and it was... I mean, the Batmobile was better than the one in Arkham Knight. It was good.
There's a question though, talking about like George Clooney's Batman. What are the what are the best worst movies from each side? Like, is there any Marvel movies that are so bad or good? Because I'd say Batman Superman's so bad it's good.
Yeah.
Is there any Marvel movies like that?
Would you call Hulk
Hulk with
the
Eric
very
Bana?
first one? Very first one.
No,
Yeah, I
so
agree. Hulk.
no.
That was really like the effects on Hulk were like he was a green Barbie.
I
Yeah.
don't think he was that bad. Like when people go on about that, like he looked. I don't
I
see
know.
the issue with
I
it. Like
know. They're not. Yeah.
it
For
was
the
kind of
time.
boring. It was the fact that he was fighting
Aye.
like Hulk-sized dogs. That was just like
Yeah.
what.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Way too much.
Poor film.
Like they basically made his dad Absorbent Man, but like they didn't do it that interestingly.
Yeah,
So that
that's
was really
true.
like good action. They, at least they attempted some comic book stuff.
The editing was very comic book. I like the editing on that film.
What would you say is a bad film? Would you say like I was going to fling this out here like Doctor Strange? Do you think like Doctor Strange 2? Do you think that was like a kind of like bad film? I don't know.
I don't think
I
it's
couldn't
that
really.
bad, but like as a
I
Marvel
can't
fan,
really put my finger on it.
I don't think very few Marvel films do I think are absolute fucking solid.
Shit.
Like
Yeah.
no solid. Like I don't.
Oh,
I have
solid.
issues with all of them. When it comes to MCU, the ones that I really like and would actually be arse rewatching, like Iron Man, I haven't watched in ages. I think the action it kind of fizzles out by the end of it. Avengers, I watched it to death, and I do think it has a lot of flaws that only come from being a Whedon project. But there's some really awkward dialogue and stuff. There's about 45 minutes in the middle of it where nothing happens, but the action is quite fun at certain points, like the Cap Loki fight and that, the Iron Man Thor fight, the Hulk Thor fight. Um, Elements of the final fight. Like, it's a bit more spread out and non-focused towards the end.
Oh wait! I've got one. I forgot about this. Thor: Dark World.
Yeah.
That is a fucking shit.
Yeah,
So that's a good way to kind
try.
of decide what is the worst DC movie that we've had, because I would say probably Suicide Squad, or
What
maybe
one?
the one that David Ayer
First.
made, the one with Jared Leto.
First one.
Is that the worst, or is it Justice League? Joss Whedon's Justice League.
Oh fuck.
It's got to be one of
Yeah,
them.
they're pretty
I would
bad.
personally I'd say it's Suicide Squad. I think that was the Will Smith and Margot Robbie, and
Yeah,
that's
it's
my
just
least
dry
favorite.
and
So, like, what is
boring.
I was
worse?
trying
What
so
would
hard.
if you had to watch one of them tonight? Right? Would you rather watch Thor: The Dark World or Suicide Squad 2016?
Sure.
I would watch Suicide
Really?
Squad.
Oh,
I couldn't watch Thor because it
I
wasn't.
don't even know. Can I answer that? I don't know. I would rather die, I
'Cause-
think, than watch either.
Oh, I mean, suicide is a good point. That's in the
Jonathan,
title.
I'd probably find some of the earlier MCU films a bit harder to watch. The first
Really?
one.
What
So
ones?
my if I was to jump my way through the MCU and I want to try and watch everything in the MCU, but I only want to watch good stuff. I'd probably just watch Iron Man, Avengers 1, maybe Avengers 2, even though it's got some gammy bits, I have some soft spots for it. Thor, well, no, jump straight to Thor Ragnarok, Winter Soldier. I haven't watched that in ages, but I don't think it's as good as everyone else seems to think it is.
I love that film.
Civil War, I think, is probably one of my, honest to God, hands down favorite films out of everything. But not including Infinity War and Endgame. Infinity War and Endgame, I think, are the cream of the crop when it comes to the MCU. Homecoming, I still have some issues with it, but I think it's pretty good. Then jumping around, like, not many of the solo films do that much for me. Guardians 1, maybe, is good. It's obviously not a solo film, but I don't think Guardians 2 is as enjoyable. But it's still all right. We mentioned Avengers 3. What is Avengers 3? Infinity War, isn't it?
Infinite War.
Infinity War.
Yeah.
Infinity War.
Ragnarok, kind of, but I find that humor very tiresome. The improv
If
stuff.
you watch it,
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be like that. So like none of the Iron Man's. Black Panther, I think it is terrible CGI, just ruins the whole film at the end.
he's helping my case here, Dan.
Well, I don't think the MCU is that solid. The MCU is it's better than the sum of its parts, really. Like it's the fact that you have moments here and there. Yeah, you have moments here and there, but I think practically everything made by the MCU has its flaws because they go a bit soft in some places.
So, what is the best MCU film? What's the high point?
It's got to be the double whammy of Infinity War and Endgame.
Infinity War and Endgame.
Okay, Chris, what's the best DC movie?
Can I say the Nolan films? Because I know that's everybody's choice. Is that?
I mean, that would be me. I'd be the Dark Knight. Like, there's nothing wrong
It
with
would
that.
be it would be the Dark Knight.
Right. So then the question is, again, you have to watch one tonight. Do you watch the Dark Knight or do you watch Infinity War and Endgame?
Well, you wouldn't.
watch
You
Dark
wouldn't have time to watch it.
I
I go to bed in like an hour.
Okay. Captain America: Winter Soldier, because that's clearly the best, and you're wrong. Winter Soldier or the Dark Knight? Because I would pick Winter Soldier.
Oh no, I would watch Dark Knight. I've got nothing against Winter
I love
Soldier.
the Dark Knight, but
I thought that was the best Captain. That was better than the first Captain America.
100%.
I don't think it was better than the. I mean, I would say that's the best Captain America film. The Captain America Civil War wasn't really a Cap film. It was basically
Avengers 2.5.
mini Avengers.
It really is
So-
like it's got more characters than your average. It nearly has as
Yeah.
many Avengers as Infinity War has. Like,
And there's a wee spot. I might probably on Jared's shoulders here. There's a wee kind of soft bit because you see Spider-Man for the first time.
yeah,
I'm like, oh,
hey everyone,
that's got about 5. Exactly, just that wee line. That's got about 5 stars more than any Marvel movie. But yeah, I would definitely say Dark Knight. I would watch the whole trilogy before any Marvel film if I needed to.
really, the Nolan trilogy.
I mean, I would need to suffer through the fucking final one.
yeah. Well, see, I'm also gonna like Christopher Nolan. I think I've lost time for a lot of Chris's, Christopher Nolan. But I don't think
Did it
that after like fucking
Interstellar?
yeah, and not only. No, actually, I like Interstellar quite a bit.
Yeah.
It's more his attitude to not changing the sound thing on.
Yeah.
And I thought, as the Weekly Planet guys call it, Backwards Boys.
Backward Boys.
What's it called?
Tenet.
Does it say
Tenet.
Backward Boys? Tenet.
His reaction to the sound mix on
That was
that
alright.
was
Yeah,
insufferable.
yeah.
I thought,
Yeah.
and the film itself, I thought he just went up his own arse.
Oh yeah.
I was better.
But I said before in previous podcasts, where I think when we were talking about the new Batman, I probably think the newer Batman is a better film because the Dark Knight is Batman's really underserved in it, and I don't think he comes across well as a character. I don't like the whole vibe about the Nolan films as time has gone on.
The Dark Knight is
I
a
think-
great film with Batman in it. It's maybe not a great
Yeah,
Batman
I think-
movie, but it's a great movie
yeah.
with him in
But
it.
his voice is like, ooh,
Yeah.
it Mask of the Phantasm if I was going to watch a Batman film now, to be honest with you.
Fair.
Oh,
Do, 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 do. They really
no,
could have
don't.
they put the operatic
don't.
levels up on that theme tune. It's
Well, that's going to make me watch the whole fucking animated series now because you mentioned that. Fuck.
I would actually I would have no problem. Like, say, looking at like 90s Spider-Man versus 90s Batman, I'm sure 90s Batman holds up a lot more, but I'm not watching it. I'm watching the 90s Spider-Man, even though it's...
See that's another thing. Like I think because even the 90s Batman had a couple of new like films coming out of it, like Sub-Zero. I don't know if anybody's known that about Sub-Zero. It's about not Doctor Strange.
Mr. Freeze.
Mr. Freeze.
Mr. Freeze. That was a good one. I used to always watch. I used to cry.
The
at the
episode?
end when it-
Or do you mean the film is separate from the episode?
They created an actual episode. I think I don't know if it was called Sub-Zero, but it was.
I think there is an animated film dedicated to Mr. Freeze, but there was that like 1 or 2 episode thing where there was like the
Together.
big Mr. Freeze story.
That's Heart of Ice. Yeah, that is a phenomenal piece of television.
Yeah, that's like that 1 or 2 episodes. 1.
I think it's
Can't remember.
Part 2.
Can't
I think it's
remember.
part
I saw a thing there. I was literally just before we started. I was watching a thing where it was like this spin-off they tried to do from the Batman Beyond, but a robot. What was it called? I literally just watched it. Zeet or something. It was like this robot who was designed to kill people, but also be able to like had like an image inducer thing where he could like the idea was they'd kill someone and then take over, impersonate them so they could do something. But then he went rogue and like he had a conscience. But it was like they got 2 seasons. Yeah,
Fucking hell.
it's,
2 seasons?
yeah, but it's like set in the same universe. Like Batman Beyond shows up in an episode or 2 of it. But I never heard of it before. Yeah,
Do you have any closing arguments here before we wrap up?
game
Quantity
films.
over quantity. If you want to go for Marvel, it's quantity. If you want to go for DC, it's quality. That's,
I don't agree with that at all.
Is it?
I like DC,
Based
especially
on-
DC.
based on
If you like a nice poster, Watch. Look at DC.
Cinematically, DC have just thrown everything at the wall and seen what's stuck. So that's why we've got all these scattered movies.
Oddly, coming out of the Sony fucking like Into the Spider-Verse is one of the only films that has like won a direct for the film has won a direct Oscar.
I was going to say that would be my favourite Marvel film. Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was.
Oh
alright.
no!
Fuck off.
That
was brilliant.
It was a decent
That was
kids movie.
brilliant.
That's all it was.
I want to see that. I want to see that in the cinema. I
was
gave
the
Marvel
mad
my
on
money
it,
for that.
Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man 2 is the greatest.
Toby Boogaloo.
Probably greatest film ever made, but that's by the by. So, shall we wrap up? I'm sure we'll do a round 2 at some point. But that was a nice kind of battle to go off with.
My batarang.
But yeah, we've been going for 2.5 hours, so we should probably wrap up.
We've been going for longer. We must be going
yeah.
about 3.5. I'd say.
I'm talking about edits.
Oh right.
So, yeah, roughly it should work out at 2.5. So yeah,
we're there 4 hours, people.
With
into my bedtime. I have to go to bed now. Sorry.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel. Drop us a like. Drop us a comment. Share.
That's the only way you closer. I just like hammer.
Well, we're not getting anywhere being nice, so let's just start threatening the listeners. Share our stuff, or Jerd will come for you with his tiny hammer.
Yeah.
You just tear that in your door, you'll shit yourself. But yeah, no, subscribe to the channel, share us if you enjoy it, follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
And make closer as big.
We'll be back next week. We'll be back next week to talk about some, I don't know, more pop culture nonsense.
Shit.
Almost perspective.
I can't do it.
This is, folks. This is how they made Lord of the Rings. This is how they did that first movie.
This is the Hobbits. Yeah. That's good.
It's better than a Hobbit. Regard. But yeah, thanks for joining us. All the best. Cheers, Chris.
Bye-bye.
Representing DC. Cheers, Jerd. Representing Marvel. Let us know in the comments, DC or Marvel, favourite books, favourite movies, favourite games.
Rate us
about each
on the podcast.
What you prefer.
And as Massimo says, see you on the next page.
See you then.